Chapter 1036, Compromise, 4/10. City Lord, we. In the city lord's mansion, an old man stood in front with an embarrassed expression. He lowered his head and said hesitantly, "Do we continue? Are you saying that in the future, everyone in Eastern Sea City will laugh at me, and even my colleagues in other cities will laugh at me?" Lei Feihu stared at the old man and said in a deep voice. "It's not the city lord, this lowly one doesn't mean that." The old man's face instantly turned pale as he hurriedly said, "I really don't believe that an assassin organization can overturn rivers and seas, and can turn Eastern Sea City upside down." Lei Feihu's expression was ice-cold as he slowly stood up. "In a while, I'll invite Commander Gao of the Ocean Corps over to discuss this. At this time, the Dragon Assassin organization has already threatened. City Lord, City Lord." At this moment, an anxious voice interrupted Lei Feihu's words, causing his expression to instantly sink. He, who was already in a bad mood, looked over with a cold gaze. In an instant, the middle-aged man who ran over collapsed to the ground, looking at Lei Feihu with a terrified expression. "Speak." Lei Feihu coldly spat out a word. "City Lord, it's bad. All the city guards have arrived at the city lord's mansion." The middle-aged man said with a face full of fear. "What? Why did they come to the city lord's mansion?" Lei Feihu asked with a deadpan expression. They requested city lord to ensure their safety." The middle-aged man didn't even dare to wipe the cold sweat off his forehead as he spoke in fear. Lei Feihu's expression changed as he slowly turned around. He wanted to accompany the Dragon Assassin organization to the end, but the group of city guards didn't dare. They didn't want to die. "City Lord, according to the information we received, the Dragon Assassin organization has re-accepted the mission." The leader of the city guards stood out with a somewhat embarrassed expression and said, "If we don't have the confidence to destroy the Dragon Assassin organization, once we continue to target their spies, there might be even more city guards dying tomorrow. City Lord, please give the order. If you really want U.S. city guards to act, I will give the order. No one will dare to disobey your order. Let's not bother about the Dragon Assassin's matter for now." The room was silent for 5 minutes before Lei Feihu's voice finally sounded. "Let the city guards continue to send themselves to death." If he had the confidence to annihilate the Dragon Assassin in the next few days, then he would be willing to sacrifice hundreds of city guards. The city guards have nothing to say. But if a few days, even a dozen days cannot eliminate the Dragon Spur. During this time, hundreds or even thousands of city guards will die, then who would like to be a city guard? Who else would submit to his lord? He can't do that. Dragon's Thorn. Dragon's Thorn. Just you wait. Lei Feihu clenched his fist, his eyes flashing with crazy killing intent. "Dragon King, the mission is normal, we received the mission commission smoothly, not by the city guard's attack." In the evening, Long Yi came over and said excitedly to Wang Xian. "It's all because of the Ao Yao." A smile appeared on Wang Xian's face. He knew that the Lord of East Sea City could not afford to play, nor could he afford to waste time. As the saying goes, a bare foot is not afraid of wearing shoes. This was his territory, and he was much more fearful of it. He couldn't possibly watch his subordinates die all the way. The Castellan made a wise choice. However, he also knew that this time, the Dragon Spike had completely offended the Star Moon Kingdom and the Thunder Castellan, a powerhouse at the insightful Void tier. However, the development of the Dragon Spike had to take this step. If they wanted to become an assassin organization that could intimidate the supernatural continent and make all the kingdoms and empires fear them, today was just the beginning. The opponents they would have to face in the future would be even stronger. Tonight, carry out the assassination mission as usual. Wang Xian said to Ao Yao. "It's the Dragon King." Ao Yao replied immediately. "It's time to reap the rewards. There should be more than 1 billion middle-grade spirit stones in your account, right?" Wang Xian smiled happily and continued to refine pills and weapons. Wang Xian really liked the feeling of being 1,000 miles away. Next, it was time to get on the right track and prepare for the auction house. The dragon Spike accepted the mission once again, causing many people to become restless. That afternoon, more than 30 people hired the dragon Spike. However, many people were still discussing whether the city lord's estate would continue to encircle and annihilate the dragon Spike. Although it was obvious that the Dragon Spike assassin organization had the upper hand today, City Lord Lei was, after all, an expert at the insightful Void Realm. Behind City Lord Lei was the entire Star Moon Kingdom. Under everyone's curiosity and bewilderment, a day quickly passed. However, in the early morning of the next day, when an exclamation broke the tranquility of Eastern Sea City, a piece of news was quickly transmitted to Eastern Sea City. The mission that Dragon Spike had accepted yesterday had been completed overnight. This immediately caused the atmosphere of the entire Eastern Sea City to change. Damn, the City Lord's mansion must have compromised. Dragon Spike didn't encounter any obstacles in accepting the mission. Just as the Dragon Spike said, the darkness has already arrived. Whoever tries to stop it will be enveloped by it. The City Lord's mansion did not stop it, and the darkness is about to envelop the entire Eastern Sea City. Next, the Eastern Sea City will fall into the era of the Dragon Spike. In the era of the darkness, unless there are no missions, people will be assassinated by the Dragon Spike every day. Too powerful, to think that even an insightful Emptiness Realm expert would have to compromise. Next, the darkness will belong to the Dragon Spike. The Eastern Sea City Forum was filled with information about the arrival of the era of the Dragon Spike. More people either started hiring the Dragon Spike or reconciled with their enemies. In an instant, all the restaurants in the Eastern Sea City were taken over by the major clans and mercenary groups. As long as it wasn't a life-and-death feud, no one would pay a huge price to hire the Dragon Spike. Therefore, those who could reconcile would do so. If they really couldn't, they would take a walk on the stage. The last option was to hire the Dragon Spike. Let's see who would act quickly. Wang Xian didn't pay attention to what happened next. He left everything to the Draconids and Ao Yao. He stayed at his residence and began to forge weapons and pills to prepare for the auction in a few days. At this moment, in the direction of the West City Gate, Manager E of the Immortal Phoenix Pill and Weapons Workshop, the shopkeepers of the 5 shops, the 4 middle-aged men, and the 4 youths all came to the position at the city gate. The 3 women and the middle-aged man stood at the very front, their faces slightly nervous as they looked into the distance. Not long after, a caravan rushed over. At the back of the caravan was an old woman, a veiled woman, 2 middle-aged men, and a strange-looking little girl. When the 3 women and the middle-aged man saw them, they immediately rushed over to welcome them. They bowed slightly, showing great respect. To be able to make 4 extraordinary level 9 experts so respectful, one could imagine the identity of the newcomers. Chapter 1037, Former Great Empress, 5/10. King. 3 women, a middle-aged man, and 4 young men quickly walked over and respectfully walked in front of the veiled woman, pretending to kneel down. Get up. The old woman next to the veiled woman gently waved her hand, not letting them kneel down. Yes, Grand Supreme. 2 clan elders, Her Highness the Little Princess. The 8 people called out respectfully to the 5 people one by one. King. Grand Supreme. Clan Elder. Little Princess. Just these 4 titles were absolutely not something that an ordinary clan or aristocratic family could have. Go in. The veiled woman nodded at them and walked straight towards Eastern Sea City. The veil only covered the lower half of her face, but looking over, it seemed that her entire face was very hazy. However, her good figure and extraordinary temperament still made people feel that she was extraordinary. Chief Yi and the 5 shopkeepers of Feng Xian looked at the group of people walking over in shock. They had wanted to go over just now, but they were stopped by the middle-aged man. They were not qualified to know their identities. "Sir." When Chief E and the others saw them walking over, they called out respectfully, "Go in." The veiled woman nodded at them and said in a very amiable manner, "Yes." Chief E and the others looked at the veiled woman with some curiosity. Although they were the managers of the Phoenix Immortal in East Sea City, they had never seen the highest level of the Phoenix Immortal before. They only knew that the Phoenix Immortal clan was backed by the Fire Cloud Sparrow clan. The Fire Cloud Sparrow clan was a top-tier clan that had been passed down for 4,000 to 5,000 years. More than 1,000 years ago, the Fire Cloud Sparrow clan was at its peak. The Fire Cloud Sparrow clan became the current Empress' newest personal guard, the first Empress since ancient times, and the first Empress of the Transcendence continent. In just over 10 years, the Phoenix dynasty had developed from a kingdom to one of the 5 great empires of the continent. At that time, it had even suppressed the Dragonman Empire. At that time, the Fire Cloud Sparrow clan stood at the peak of the continent, and the Fire Cloud Guards resounded throughout the continent. However, more than 1,000 years ago, the Empress disappeared, and the Fire Cloud Guards withdrew from the Phoenix dynasty and lived in seclusion in the Fire Cloud Mountains. 2 years ago, it was rumored that the Fire Cloud Sparrow clan had established the Immortal Phoenix Pill and Weapons Workshop due to a lack of resources. If not for the fact that the Fire Cloud Sparrow clan was behind the Immortal Phoenix clan, they would have been destroyed by the Life and Death Pill Workshop and the Holy Item Forging Workshop in a dark way. The two behemoths, Life and Death and Holy Items, were also afraid of the Fire Cloud Sparrow clan's strength. After all, this was the Fire Cloud personal guard who had fought with the #1 Empress of the Eternal Era on the continent. Have you heard? The Han clan, which is ranked 3rd in Donghai City, and the Tang clan, which is ranked 6th, have decided to hold a disciple competition in 3 days' time. Through this competition, they will completely resolve their past grudges. I've heard about it. It's really interesting. The competition between the Han family and the Tang family has been going on for 4 or 5 generations. It's been going on for almost 100 years. Now that the dragon spike is here, they are going to completely reconcile. They are also afraid. They are also afraid that the other party will hire the dragon spike. If the Han family or the Tang family really hire the dragon spike, then the 2 big families in Donghai City will have one less. I have to say, the dragon spike is like the scythe of the Grim Reaper. It brings not only darkness, but also peace. You don't know, but I heard that the town under East Sea City is very harmonious. Since the dragon spike went over, there have been less conflicts in the whole town than before. Everything has been settled on the arena. Some people say that when the dragon spike arrives, it brings darkness, but when the darkness passes, it becomes light. Exactly. Because of the dragon spike, there are new rules established by families. Do you know what the first rule is? It's to be a good person. How interesting. When the group entered the city, they heard bustling voices. However, out of the 10 sentences, 9 of them were about the dragon spike. That was because the impact of the dragon spike on East Sea City was too great. When the veiled woman heard the words around her, she revealed a hint of curiosity. What is the dragon spike? Dragon spike. When a middle-aged woman heard her words, she quickly explained, not long ago, the dragon spike entered an assassin organization in East Sea City. This assassin organization is extremely powerful. They announced their arrival by directly destroying a family with a rank 8 transcendent. The next day, they destroyed another family with a rank 8 transcendent. Once, this dragon spike assassinated the mayor of Bridge Forest Town under East Sea City. He assassinated him on the street and was extremely arrogant. The next day, the city lord's mansion surrounded Dragon Spike and captured 2 spies of Dragon Spike. In the end, that afternoon, the Dragon Spike assassinated 10 city guards in public. At night, he directly wiped out the Yun family, which had a rank 9 transcendent. The sister of the Yun family's patriarch married the city lord, Lei Feihu. On the third day, the dragon Spike assassinated another 20 city guards on the street. This time, everyone saw the city guards being assassinated, but no one made a move. And at that time, City Lord Lei Feihu personally watched from the sky. Even he didn't discover who made a move. The middle-aged woman sorted out the events that had happened in the past few days. Oh. To be able to kill a transcendent level 9 expert and kill someone under the surveillance of a void interpretation expert, this dragon Spike is not bad. A red-haired middle-aged man behind said in surprise. It is very strong. It is said that they should be a race of demon beasts. The middle-aged woman lowered her head and said. Race of demon beasts? The strongest assassin race of the transcendent continent, the Dark Abyss, is able to assassinate an expert at the void interpretation level. I wonder how big the gap is between this dragon Spike and them. A trace of curiosity appeared on the red-haired middle-aged man's face. How is the business in Eastern Sea City? How are the preparations for the auction? The veiled woman's eyes flickered as she asked indifferently. Your Majesty, business in Eastern Sea City is on the right track, and the auction venue has been prepared. However, the Life and Death Pill Workshop and the Holy Item Forging Workshop have been suppressing us. The auction will be held on the same day as us. The middle-aged woman immediately replied. Increase the publicity for the auction. In addition, spread the word in the other cities in Star Moon Kingdom that Phoenix Immortal will have a half-step void interpretation level pet egg, a void interpretation level weapon, and a piece of armor. The middle-aged man said to the middle-aged woman. Yes, yes. The middle-aged woman hurriedly nodded, her gaze turning to Supervisor E and the shopkeepers. We'll immediately contact the supervisors of the other cities in Star Moon Kingdom and have them spread the word with all their might. Supervisor E and the 5 shopkeepers revealed shocked expressions. A half-step void interpretation level pet egg. What level was this item? It was a rare treasure. If this pet egg could be hatched and nurtured, it could have the combat strength of a half-step void interpretation level. To many people, this was a rare treasure. Chapter 1038, Feng Wuan, 6/10. A half-step void interpretation pet egg was a huge treasure to some families. Take all the powerful families in East Sea City as an example. If they could raise a half-step void interpretation pet, they would have a half-step void interpretation master. They could become the most powerful family in East Sea City. This was the attraction of a half-step void interpretation pet. As for void interpretation weapons and armor, they were extremely attractive to experts below the void interpretation level and even to void interpretation experts. Supervisor E and the 5 shopkeepers were very interested. Just these 2 items were enough to make Feng Xian's auction this time completely overpower the auction jointly held by the Life and Death Pill Workshop and the Holy Item Forging Workshop. Even families from other cities and Star Moon City would rush over to buy pet eggs and holo-level weapons. They could already imagine the scene of the Phoenix Immortal auction with a huge crowd. As for the Life and Death Pill Workshop and the Holy Item Forging Workshop's auction, the number of people might not even reach half of this place. The group walked towards the central area and came to a street with the largest traffic in the central area. The group walked into a luxurious 4-story red building. The red building looked extremely luxurious and was 1 story higher than many of the surrounding buildings. It occupied a huge area, and when they entered, they saw a huge hall. My lords, we rented this in advance. It's the largest auction house in East Sea City. The entire hall, including the 2 floors above, can seat 5,000 people. It's enough to hold an auction here. Supervisor E said to the veiled woman and the others behind him, you can live on the 4th floor of the top floor. We have already prepared it for you, my lords. Okay, I'll help you. The red-haired middle-aged man waved at them. Yes, yes. Supervisor E and the others immediately left. Empress, are you planning to start from East Sea City? Supervisor E and the rest left. The old woman who had not spoken all this while looked at the veiled woman and said softly. The old woman who spoke was the Grand Supreme of the Fire Cloud Sparrow clan. He had lived for more than 4,000 years. He had once accompanied the first empress to battle and was the leader of the Fire Cloud personal guards. No one knew how strong she was, but she was definitely not someone that a void interpretation expert could compare to. At this moment, she looked at the woman beside her, her eyes filled with respect. At the same time, her heart was filled with flames of anger. Star Moon Kingdom is a small country affiliated to the Phoenix Dynasty. This place is backed by the ocean, and is the best place to start. The veiled woman walked up the stairs lightly, her gaze sizing up her surroundings. It's a pity that our Fire Cloud Sparrow clan cannot follow the queen to establish a new dynasty. The old woman tightly gripped the red crutch in her hand as she spoke in a deep voice. Yun, we don't need your Fire Cloud Sparrow clan now, but in the future, the Fire Cloud personal guards will eventually return. The veiled woman spoke to the old woman. One day, I will once again conquer the world for the Empress and destroy that group of traitors from the Phoenix Dynasty. When the old woman heard the veiled woman's words, she was so excited that she directly knelt on the ground. Our Fire Cloud Sparrow clan will follow the great Empress to the death. The other two clan elders, the little girl, and the 4 middle-aged and 4 young men hurriedly knelt on the ground and shouted with a resolute expression. All right, get up. The veiled woman helped the old woman up. It's almost 2,000 years. There's no need to rush for 100 years. She continued walking upwards. The Fire Cloud Sparrow clan was very powerful. It could be said that they were a powerful race on the transcendent continent. With their strength, it would be very easy for them to destroy Star Moon Kingdom. However, they could not make a move. They could not help openly. Chapter 1039, Life and Death and Holy Items Counterattack, 7/10. FUCK, Void Level Weapons and Armor, a half-step Void Level Pet. The items that Phoenix Immortal is auctioning this time are too terrifying, right? No way, is this for real? Void Level Weapons and Armor are awesome, but this half-step Void Level Pet, isn't it a little too crazy? Having a half-step void interpretation level pet can build a big family, and make a big family not fall for 1,000 years. If I had a pet that could grow to half-step void interpretation level, I would be able to do whatever I want in East Sea City. A treasure of this level actually appeared in our East Sea City. My god, if it appeared in the auction house, wouldn't all the big families compete for it? What does a half-step void interpretation level pet egg look like? Damn it, when the Phoenix Immortal is auctioning it, I must go there. Even if I can't buy it, I must take a look. With your level, can you go in? When the time comes, I reckon that even people from other cities will rush over to bid for this pet egg. If a half-step void interpretation level pet egg could be obtained, it could at least allow a clan to continue for another 1,000 years. Within the Eastern Sea City, within 1,000 years, there would be a half-step void interpretation level fierce beast guarding it, and absolutely no one would dare to provoke it. It was even possible that even the dragon Spike wouldn't dare to provoke it. A treasure of this level was a fatal temptation to all clans. When this news was confirmed, the entire Eastern Sea City was in an uproar, and even the news about the dragon Spike was suppressed. Everyone was talking about the Phoenix Immortals auction in 6 days. Their eyes were shining, fantasizing that they would get a pet that could grow to half-step void interpretation level. Then, they would go on a killing spree and build a powerful family. It seems that the Life and Death Pill Workshop and the Holy Item Forging Workshop will also hold an auction in 6 days. Originally, they wanted to stop the Phoenix Immortal, but now it seems that no one will come even if they hold an auction that day. That's right. The Life and Death Pill Workshop and the Holy Item Forging Workshop will jointly hold an auction. Although the value of the items they take out is very high, it can't be compared to Feng Xian at all. Some people thought of the auction jointly held by the Life and Death Pill Workshop and the Holy Item Forging Workshop, and smiled faintly. This time, the items that Feng Xian took out were too precious, and all the clans were moved. Some clans even prepared to sell their items to collect spirit stones. This was especially so for the few large clans in Eastern Sea City. They had already prepared to use all their clan's resources to snatch this half-step void interpretation pet egg. I knew that Feng Xian would definitely be unwilling, but I never thought that they would actually bring out such a precious treasure like a half-step void interpretation pet egg. At this moment, in a luxurious auction house, two old men sat there. From the clothes they were wearing, it could be seen that one was the Life and Death Pill Workshop, and the other was the Holy Item Forging Workshop. One of the two behemoths was selling pills, and the other was selling weapons. There was no competition at all between them. On the contrary, after the appearance of the Phoenix Immortal, they often cooperated. This time, the Phoenix Immortal held an auction. Life and Death would join forces with the Holy Item to hold an auction to suppress the Phoenix Immortal. However, what they hadn't expected was that the Phoenix Immortal had actually taken out such a precious treasure. A half-step void interpretation level pet egg. Which family wouldn't be envious? I really don't know why the Phoenix Immortal took out such a precious treasure for such a small auction. Is it worth it? You can't say that. The Phoenix Immortal has been suppressed by us in Star Moon Kingdom. They have to think of some way. Otherwise, how could he have a foothold? This matter isn't something we can control. Report it to the higher-ups and see what they say. Alright, if the higher-ups really want to take out more precious treasures, that would be interesting. The two old men were chatting with smiles on their faces. Huh. Feng Xian actually took out a half-step void interpretation level pet egg and a void interpretation level weapon and armor in this auction. What a huge sum of money. When Wang Xian saw the messages in the Donghai City Forum from the communication stone plate, he was astonished. It seems like they are taking this auction very seriously. Wang Xian mumbled. The news of Phoenix Immortal holding an auction a few days ago had already been publicized. However, following the joint announcement of Life and Death and the Holy Item, the auction was also held. Furthermore, the items they took out were much more luxurious than Phoenix Immortal's. Phoenix Immortal took out such a precious item again today. Clearly, she didn't want to be at a disadvantage. A half-step void interpretation level pet egg still can't be compared to a half-step void interpretation level bloodline. Wang Xian smiled. This time, he could not blame Wang Xian for being ruthless. He had prepared for several days for this auction. Furthermore, he had to sell his bloodline. He had to hold this auction. Looking at the various weapons in front of him, Wang Xian continued to refine. A day passed very quickly. The assassination of the dragon Spike was still going on every day. Many people were still trembling in fear every day. However, the popularity of the auction was no less than that of the Dragon Spike Assassin organization. However, on the second day, the Life and Death Elixir Workshop and the Holy Item Forging Workshop issued a statement. In the auction 6 days later, we will be auctioning off a half-step void interpretation demonic beast cub. In addition, there will be a large number of precious treasures. Once this news was released, it once again caused a sensation throughout the entire Eastern Sea City. Holy shit, is this the rhythm of the Life and Death Pill Workshop's Holy Item Forging Workshop going to go head-to-head with Immortal Phoenix? Too savage, good heavens, a half-step void interpretation demonic beast cub. As expected of the continent's enormous power, to actually be able to take out such a heaven-defying item. Immortal Phoenix's pet egg is obviously a fierce beast's pet egg, but this is a demonic beast cub. The gap between the two is extremely large, and demonic beasts possess powerful intelligence. The Phoenix Immortal has just taken out a half-step void interpretation pet egg, yet they have taken out a half-step void interpretation cub. This is completely crushing. The Phoenix Immortal still cannot be compared to the Life and Death Pill Workshop and the Holy Item Forging Workshop. After all, their foundations are still too far apart, not to mention that they are working together. It is said that the Life and Death Pill Workshop and the Holy Item Forging Workshop have spread this news throughout Star Moon Kingdom. I reckon that when the time comes, even some families from Star Moon Kingdom will come. On the forum, countless people were chatting. Their faces were filled with excitement, washing away the killing intent of the dragon Spike. However, at this moment, in that luxurious auction house in the central region, Supervisor E and the 5 shopkeepers stood there with worried expressions, reporting the news over. The 3 women were already a middle-aged man with a frown. Hearing their report, their faces didn't look too good either. There was indeed a huge gap between the ferocious beast pet egg and the demon beast cub. The difference in combat strength might not be big, but the difference in intelligence couldn't be made up for. Chapter 1040, appeared out of thin air, 8/10. When a vicious beast was raised, it would at most rely on its master and listen to its master's orders. Its intelligence would have a huge flaw and it would require a long period of training to be able to command it. However, a demon beast cub was different. A demon beast cub could speak and communicate with humans. In terms of intelligence, it was no different from humans. It was even able to assimilate into the clan like some of the demon beasts in the city. To a clan, the value of a demon beast cub was something that even 2 ferocious beast pets could not compare to. The Life and Death Pill Workshop and the Holy Item Forging Workshop working together to take out items was indeed something that they could not compare to. Pitch, isn't it just a demon beast cub? We also have a lot of treasures. A little girl at the side heard their words and suddenly took off the hairpin on her head. This was given to me by my mother. I don't believe that it's not as attractive as a demonic beast cub. Miss. The 4 middle-aged men saw her hand over the phoenix-shaped hairpin and revealed a bitter expression. This can't be auctioned. Pitch, so what? I'll ask my mother to give me another one when the time comes. The little girl curled her lips. We can't let others bully us. Miss, let's wait for Wang and the others to decide. The 4 middle-aged men didn't dare to say anything and raised their heads to send a voice transmission to a clan elder standing on the 4th floor. The 2 middle-aged men raised their eyebrows and immediately knocked on the door to report. Feng Wan and the old woman walked out from inside. Sister Feng, auction off this hairpin of mine. Isn't it a treasure? We have one too. Seeing Feng Wan walk over, the little girl immediately ran over and said loudly. All right, Xiao Hong, stop fooling around as a child. Feng Wan stroked her head and put the hairpin on her. I'm not a child. I'm already more than 20 years old this year. Among humans, I can be considered a big girl. As the little girl spoke, she pouted with slight dissatisfaction. You're still a child in the Fire Cloud Sparrow clan. The old woman pulled the little girl to the side. It's a loss to hold an auction in East Sea City for void interpretation level items. The best item we can take out is a half-step void interpretation level pet egg. Let's proceed with this auction as usual. Feng Wan said to them with slight helplessness. Although she could still take out more precious items, this precious item could not be sold at a high price in a kingdom. It might even be a loss. It was only worth it to take out items below the insightful void tier. However, the most precious item she had here was this half-step insightful void tier pet egg. Yes. Supervisor E and the others nodded, but then they frowned. At that time, our auction house will have fewer people, and the items might not be sold at a high price. Sell as many as you can. Feng Wan said directly. Yes. Everyone nodded helplessly. The foundation of the Life and Death Pill Workshop and the Holy Item Forging Workshop is too deep. We can't compete with them. The old woman said in a deep voice. Feng Wan was slightly silent. Now, Feng Xian was being suppressed by the Life and Death Pill Workshop and the Holy Item Forging Workshop everywhere. If she couldn't fight back a few times, she would never be able to think about it again. People would think that Feng Xian was inferior to them. As time passed, Feng Xian's business would become even more difficult. However, these 2 behemoths had deep roots. If they weren't from the Fire Cloud Sparrow clan, their shops would have been destroyed long ago. Ever since she came to the extraordinary continent, she had been restricted everywhere. The current situation was 10 times more difficult than it was 1,000 years ago. I wonder if they are here. A few figures appeared in her mind. That was a young man whom she had slept with for a few months. Those few were her special sisters. If they were here, at least she would have someone to talk to. TSK, amazing, amazing. The Life and Death Pill Workshop and the Holy Item Forging Workshop actually took out a demonic beast cub. It's really powerful. At night, when Wang Xian saw the information on the forum, he was astonished. A half-step void interpretation pet egg. A demonic beast cub that was half-step void interpretation. Each of them was more impressive than the other. There are still 4 days left. It seems like I should start promoting myself. Wang Xian thought to himself. The competition and promotion between Phoenix Immortal and the Holy Item of Life and Death is actually very beneficial to me. Wang Xian stroked his chin and smiled. Long Yi, have you rented the auction house? There were 5 auction houses in East Sea City, all belonging to various chambers of commerce. If it was a normal day, it would be very troublesome for him to rent an auction house. However, it would be very easy for him to do so in the next few days. Especially after 4 days. With Fengxian and the Holy Relic of Life and Death holding an auction, how would the other auction houses dare to auction? There was probably not even a single person. Dragon King, we have rented the 2 largest auction houses in Donghai City. Phoenix Immortal and the rest have already rented them. Our auction house can only accommodate 2,000 people. Long Yi immediately replied to Wang Xian. That's enough. Wang Xian nodded. Have you finished decorating the interior? Yes, Dragon King. What should we name this auction? Every auction had a name, even if their auction house was rented. This was because holding an auction could accumulate reputation. If the auction was held many times and the items auctioned were good, many people would come to the auction once their reputation was established. Immortal Phoenix, let's call it Immortal Phoenix Auction. We can just announce it directly. Wang Xian thought for a moment and said directly. It's Dragon King. We will start promoting it tomorrow. Long Yi nodded. Okay. The next morning, Wang Xian stretched his back and didn't sleep for the entire night. He walked directly to the Western District. Long Yi's rental auction house was located in the Western District. He wanted to go over and take a look. Even after the entire day, there is still no reaction from Fengxian. It seems like she has admitted defeat. It should be. Fengxian is already very powerful to be able to take out a half-step void interpretation level pet egg, but the opponent is even more powerful. Fengxian is suppressed by the Life and Death Pill Workshop and the Holy Item Forging Workshop everywhere in Eastern Sea City. It's the same for this auction. These 3 clans are all huge, but Fengxian's foundation is too weak. I heard that people from other families have already arrived in the city closest to us. Walking on the road, Wang Xian could vaguely hear the discussions of the people around him. A smile appeared on his face. Regardless of whether it was Fengxian, his life or death, or the holy item, they were going to become his stepping stones this time. He was really thankful for their help in promoting the auction. Wang Xian came to the location of the auction house in the Western District and saw a huge plaque hanging on it. Immortal Phoenix Auction. Pa 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 pa. Passers-by, come and take a look. We have an important announcement to make. When Wang Xian had just walked over, he saw Long Yi standing on the stage in front of the auction house and shouting loudly. Chapter 1041, appeared out of nowhere, 9/10. The auction houses were the places that caused the most trouble. It was the same for the auction houses in the Western District. Long Yi stood on top and shouted, immediately attracting the attention of the passers-by. Some of them looked over curiously. There were also some who had nothing better to do and came over. Here, our immortal phoenix auction has something to announce. 3 days later, our immortal phoenix will hold an auction. Long Yi saw the gazes of the surrounding people looking over and said loudly. An auction will be held in 3 days? Immortal Phoenix auction? What's that? An auction will be held in 3 days? When the surrounding people who passed by heard his words, their faces revealed a stunned expression. Hey, this brother, are you joking? An auction will be held in 3 days? When a young man heard his words, a mocking expression appeared on his face as he shouted on the spot. Ha, I think he's here to joke. Is he going to challenge the record of 0 customers in the auction? Ha! After the young man's words, a few other people said with faces full of laughter. The auction would be held in 3 days. Wasn't this courting death? The battle between the Phoenix Immortal, the life and death, and the holy item was so intense that running out at this time was simply showing off one's IQ. Let's see whose IQ is lower. Everyone in the surroundings looked over with amusement. Long Yi looked at the reactions of the people around him. He was not angry at all, but still had a smile on his face. Everyone, don't be in a hurry to leave. Now, allow us to introduce the final item of this immortal phoenix auction. Long Yi continued to speak loudly. Then quickly take it out and let us have a look. Don't tremble so much. That's right. Let us see if it's more precious than a half-step void interpretation demonic beast cub or a half-step void interpretation pet egg. Ha! To dare to hold an auction 3 days later, it must be a peerless divine artifact, right? Maybe the auctioned item is IQ. The crowd below shouted at Long Yi with a face full of mockery. After these few shouts, there were already 500 to 600 people watching this side. They wanted to see what kind of tricks this guy could play. Okay. Long Yi slightly raised his chest, and the corners of his mouth slightly curled up. Then everyone, you have to open your eyes wide. We will only display it for 20 seconds. Long Yi revealed a confident expression, his eyes filled with excitement. Demon Beast Bloodline, half-step void interpretation level Demon Beast Bloodline. Long Yi directly roared out these words, spreading out for a few thousand meters. If this was seen by the city guards, they would be punished with spirit stones. However, Long Yi didn't care at this moment. After he finished shouting, the auction door directly opened. A pure and transparent pond filled with green liquid was displayed in front of everyone. Everyone was slightly stunned as they looked at the green liquid. What is this? Demonic Beast Bloodline, this is a fucking pool. What a rich bloodline, what a high-grade bloodline, it's a half-step void interpretation, it's a half-step void interpretation. A young man looked at the pool of green liquid with a face full of disbelief. What kind of demonic beast bloodline was this? However, before he could finish his words, an excited voice suddenly came from the side. He was slightly stunned and turned his head to look in astonishment. A demonic beast, that's right, it was a demonic beast. It held a fork in its hand. Its upper body was similar to a human, but its lower body was a fish tail. Its head looked a little ferocious. At this moment, its gaze was burning as it stared at the green liquid, and its body was slightly trembling. Everyone who was about to mock it was completely stunned. Their eyes slowly widened, and their shock slowly turned into shock. It seems that this demon beast is very knowledgeable. That's right, it is an invincible treasure that can allow humans to obtain the demon beast bloodline. A half-step void interpretation demon beast bloodline. As long as you fuse with this bloodline, you will be able to become a half-step void interpretation expert. I'll be able to establish a powerful bloodline family. I'll be able to nurture many half-step void interpretation level heirs. I'll be able to stand at the peak of East Sea City and establish a family that will last for 10,000 years. Bloodline, a half-step void interpretation bloodline. There wasn't a single half-step void interpretation bloodline family in the entire East Sea City. It's a half-step void interpretation demon beast bloodline. A complete bloodline inheritance, my god. The demonic beast's body trembled slightly, and its eyes were filled with an intense desire. For a moment, it wasn't just them, even the eyes of everyone in the surroundings slowly turned red. They knew this demonic beast who spoke. He was an extraordinary 7th rank expert, and could be considered quite famous in Eastern Sea City. His words shouldn't be wrong. This caused everyone's breathing to quicken. This was the bloodline of a half-step void interpretation demonic beast. As long as he obtained the bloodline inheritance, as long as he had the resources, he would be able to cultivate to the half-step void interpretation realm. He didn't need to comprehend any divine abilities, and he didn't have any restrictions. He could directly cultivate to the half-step void interpretation realm. A half-step void interpretation realm expert was an invincible existence in East Sea City, apart from the city lord and the commander of the Ocean Cultivator Corps. A half-step void interpretation expert's descendants would also have a high chance of inheriting the bloodline. Generation after generation, experts came in an endless stream. There was a high chance that they would establish a clan that had been around for thousands or even tens of thousands of years. A half-step void interpretation expert was one of the top experts in Star Moon Kingdom. 20 seconds are up. Seeing the red eyes of the crowd, Long Yi shouted. Pang! The door to the auction closed. Don't think about snatching it. If we can put it up for auction, we won't be afraid of people snatching it. Long Yi said with a smile. Apart from a half-step void interpretation realm bloodline, there will also be Tier 6 and Tier 7 transcendent weapons and armor sets. There will be a transcendent level 9 pill, and 4 transcendent level 9 weapons and armor sets. A large number of treasures will definitely be able to satisfy the difference. This is crazy, a half-step cave level bloodline. Oh my god, this is the real peerless treasure. Demon Beast bloodline. This is the first time I've seen a demon beast bloodline. This is a peerless treasure that can make one ascend to the heavens in one step. Compared to this demon beast bloodline, those pet eggs and demon beast cubs are nothing but trash. To establish a bloodline family, a top-tier bloodline family, how precious is this demon beast bloodline? 10 billion middle-grade spirit stones. Or more. This motherfucker is selling such a terrifying demon beast bloodline. What's the origin of this immortal phoenix? Is this the face-smacking immortal phoenix and the holy item of life and death? Crushing, completely crushing. It is not an exaggeration to say that as long as it is a top-tier family, they would all want to fight for this demon beast bloodline. Even those insightful emptiness realm experts would be tempted. However, as Long Yi spoke, his voice was completely covered by the exclamations around him. He knew that just taking out one demon beast bloodline was enough. He did not need to introduce anything else. Just as they said, the half-step void interpretation demon beast bloodline crushed the Phoenix Immortal, life and death, and the holy item. The battle between the Phoenix Immortal and the life and death holy item was a joke in front of the half-step void interpretation bloodline. Chapter 1042, Is That Him? 10 out of 10. Born out of thin air. In the past few days, everyone in Eastern Sea City felt that their hearts couldn't keep up with the earth-shattering news. They thought that the appearance of the dragon spike had already shaken the entire Eastern Sea City. In the end, the half-step void interpretation level pet egg once again shook Eastern Sea City. Before everyone could recover, the half-step void interpretation level demon beast cub appeared, and East Sea City shook again 3 times. However, this morning, East Sea City was shaken. The violent earthquake shook everyone. FUCK, who the FUCK would have thought that a half-step void interpretation level demon beast bloodline would be obtained? Whoever can obtain it has a chance to become a half-step void interpretation level expert. Crazy. Has the Eastern Sea City gone crazy recently? Where did this immortal phoenix come from? How could it take out such a precious treasure? If this thing was placed in the Eastern Sea City, it would definitely cause a bloody battle. Even if there were city rules, it would be useless. However, this immortal phoenix is obviously not simple. To be able to take out such a treasure, it must be powerful. It's a grand event in 3 days. I must go and take a look at that half-step void interpretation bloodline. Even if I have to take a look, it's still good. In the streets and alleys, every corner of Eastern Sea City was talking about the demon beast bloodline. At first, some people didn't believe it, but when they saw someone confirm it and saw the immortal phoenix promoting it on the forum, they had to believe it even if they didn't dare to believe it. To everyone in Eastern Sea City, the half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline was a heaven-defying treasure. Hoo, is it true? Are you sure it's the half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline? Sir, I'm sure, I'm 100% sure. The half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline, I must get it, I must get it. In a luxurious manner in Eastern Sea City, an old man who was emitting a terrifying aura roared in a low voice with burning eyes. Take out all the spirit stones and valuable items in the clan. We'll fight for the demon beast bloodline in 3 days, even if we have to go bankrupt. Go and find out what faction this immortal phoenix belongs to. Why would it take out such a terrifying treasure? Go and borrow all the people who can borrow spirit stones. This time, we'll stake everything we have. The powerful families of Eastern Sea City were all in an uproar. Prepare spirit stones. We must fight for it. Half-step void interpretation demon beast bloodline, half-step cave demon beast bloodline. At this moment, in a room in the city lord's mansion, Lei Feihu heard his subordinates report, and his eyes flickered. He touched his interspatial ring and checked the spirit stones and various resources inside. I can give it a try, he muttered. Even if he was a profound void tier expert, he still wanted to obtain the half-step profound void tier demonic beast bloodline. He didn't need it, but he could give it to his son. He knew very well how difficult it was to step into the profound void tier, and how lucky he was. He had narrowly escaped death to reach this step. His son couldn't do it, and he also knew very well that all his descendants couldn't do it. Perhaps when he died, the Lei family wouldn't go into decline, but it would still be vastly different from what it was now. If his descendants had the half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline. If he used resources to raise 1 or 2 of his descendants to the half-step void interpretation level, the Lei family would still be very strong in Star Moon Kingdom. He wanted to make a move on this half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline. Wang Xian did not enter the auction. He felt that he had not realized the value of the half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline before. When he saw the pairs of blood-red eyes of everyone around him, he knew that he had underestimated it. Things are a little out of my expectations. It seems that I can't come into contact with Long Yi and the rest for the time being. I can't let them come back and look for me either. I'll contact them through the strange demon. We'll meet again after this matter is over. Wang Xian listened to the shocked expressions of the people around him as they discussed about the bloodline of the demonic beasts. A look of deep thought appeared on his face. For the time being, he couldn't let others know that the bloodline of the demonic beasts came from his hands. Otherwise, he would be in danger. It's best if I don't return to my own residence for the time being, Wang Xian thought to himself. He looked to his side and whispered, get Ao Jian and the rest from the residence to bring everything here. It's the Dragon King. A strange voice rang in his ears. Wang Xian walked around the western district. Speaking of which, he had yet to tour Donghai City properly. It was a good opportunity for him to tour around these few days. What? A half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline. At this moment, in a luxurious auction house located in the eastern district of Donghai City, a group of workers were decorating it. When the 2 managers of the Life and Death Pill Workshop and the Holy Item Forging Workshop heard the news from their subordinates, their faces revealed shock. They looked at each other, their expressions somewhat awkward. Which faction is the Immortal Phoenix? Why is it being auctioned 3 days later? How can they have such a precious treasure? Immediately report it to the higher-ups. Damn it, why is the water in East Sea City so deep? Why is there suddenly an Immortal Phoenix auction? Immortal Phoenix? Immortal Phoenix? Could it be someone from Immortal Phoenix's side? But why is there such an unnecessary move? It must be Immortal Phoenix's. I wonder what kind of scheme they have. The two old men said with sullen faces. They immediately took out their communication stone plates and announced this major event. What did you say? At the same time, in the central region, in the largest auction house in East Sea City, Supervisor E and the 5 shopkeepers reported the matter to the 2 middle-aged elders of the Fire Cloud Sparrow clan with embarrassed expressions. Their faces were filled with astonishment. Another auction house suddenly appeared. It actually wanted to auction the half-step void interpretation demon beast bloodline 3 days later. In their eyes, this demon beast bloodline was considered a treasure. When did such a small East Sea City produce so many treasures? You guys wait here. We'll go in and report. The 2 middle-aged men said to Supervisor E and the others and walked to the door of Feng Wan's house. Supervisor Yi's expression was somewhat strange and somewhat complicated. Peng Peng. Your Majesty, we have something to report. Come in. Feng Wan was still holding the information in her hands as she frowned and looked at it. Beside her, their Fire Cloud Sparrow race's Grand Supreme stood respectfully at the side. Empress, just now, the supervisor and manager of Feng Xian came to report that another auction house has appeared in East Sea City. They are preparing to hold an auction 3 days later. The item being auctioned is a half-step void interpretation level demon beast bloodline. 2 middle-aged men walked in and said respectfully. Feng Wan was slightly stunned and revealed a surprised expression. A half-step void interpretation level demon beast bloodline. Yes, it's absolutely true. Right now, it has gone crazy in East Sea City. The 2 middle-aged men nodded heavily. Feng Wan's expression changed slightly. This was really bad news after bad news. With a dark expression, she picked up the teacup on the table. What faction is able to take out a half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline for auction? The old woman at the side asked with a frown. I don't know for the time being. I only know that it's called the Immortal Phoenix auction. Voila! When the 2 elders said these words, Feng Wan's arm trembled and let out a sound. The old woman was slightly startled. She quickly looked over and asked worriedly, Empress. Fairy Phoenix? Am I overthinking it, or is it him? Chapter 1043, The Empress Who Lost Her Composure. Feng Wan sat there muttering to herself. There were water stains flowing out from the teacup on the table. This was the first time the old woman had seen such a slightly dazed state. It was also the first time she had met the 2 elders beside her. Even 2 years ago, when she met the Empress who was only at Transcendent Level 3. Her body still exuded nobility, determination, and pride. It was a kind of spirit and demeanor that could look down on the kings of the world. It was the domineering aura that their Empress once possessed that shook the entire world. It was the first time they saw the Empress lose her composure like this. The first time. The first time in their lives. Who was he that the Empress mentioned? Who could make the Empress lose her composure like this? Call them over. I have something to ask them. Feng Wan said to the 2 elders. It's the Empress. The 2 middle-aged men immediately walked out of the house and called Supervisor E and the others in. Sir. Supervisor E and the 6 others nervously called out to Feng Wan. They didn't know Feng Wan's true identity, but they knew the group of people who had arrived earlier. The 4 middle-aged men were all at Transcendent Level 9. The 4 at Transcendent Level 9 wanted to kneel down to the other party. One could imagine that the identity of the veiled woman in front of them was so noble that it was hard for them to imagine. Do you know anything about this Immortal Phoenix? Feng Wan asked Manager Yi and the others nervously and expectantly. Immortal Phoenix? The 5 shopkeepers looked at Manager Yi. Manager Yi's expression changed slightly, not knowing how to start. Just say what you know. It doesn't matter if you are certain. Feng Wan said directly to Supervisor Yi. Sir, I have a deep impression of the name, Immortal Phoenix, because it's the opposite of us. Supervisor Yi thought for a moment and said, about 3 months ago, a mercenary group appeared in Shanghai town. It's called the Immortal Phoenix Mercenary Group. The leader is a young man. That young man is called Wang Xian. When Supervisor Yi mentioned this name, Feng Wan stood up immediately. The chair rubbed against the ground and made an urgent sound. The old woman and the 2 elders beside her had a change in expression. They looked at the Empress in shock. Even Supervisor Yi was stunned. Continue. Feng Wan stared at him intently. This Wang Xian bought 8 million middle-grade spirit stones in our shop at that time. Later on, he bought several tens of millions of middle-grade spirit stones in succession. Furthermore, he helped us solve the crisis of the shop in Shanghai town. I once asked him why he helped us. He said that he knew people from Feng Xian. Later on, when we met again, it was in Donghai City. He bought 5 to 600 million middle-grade spirit stones twice. Manager Yi gulped and continued. She suddenly had a premonition. That mysterious Commander Wang might be acquainted with this important figure of their immortal phoenix. Is there anyone else beside him? Feng Wan's voice suddenly trembled as she asked. Yes, he has 11 subordinates. All of them are middle-aged. Their expressions are very cold. Oh right, they are holding golden longswords in their hands. Supervisor Yi continued. Crack. The teacup in Feng Wan's hand was directly crushed. She closed her eyes, but her eyelashes slightly trembled. Anything else? Anything else, anything else? Supervisor Yi saw Feng Wan's reaction. After hesitating for a moment, he continued, a few days ago, that Commander Wang came to the shop in the East District. At that time, I went to deal with the auction with the 4 lords. 3 young ladies and a young master were in the shop. At that time, that young master chased Commander Wang out. The last time we met was when that Commander Wang took out 1 billion middle-grade spirit stones and bought all the medicinal pills in the life and death pill workshop. From that day onwards, I haven't seen that Commander Wang. After Chief Yi finished speaking, he lowered his head. The old woman at the side looked at the Empress with a face full of shock, her heart fluctuating. The Empress actually lost her composure. Why? Who was that youth? Did you guess that this immortal phoenix auction was held by him? Feng Wan opened her eyes and asked Supervisor Yi. Yes, that Commander Wang is very mysterious. He is able to do shocking things every time. Supervisor Yi nodded. Who? Feng Wan exhaled and was slightly absent-minded. At that moment, she was almost certain that he had arrived. At that time, he had said that he would head to the Transcendent Continent soon. As expected, he had arrived. Come, let's go out. A smile appeared on Feng Wan's face. It was a smile that came from the bottom of her heart. He had chosen to come to East Sea City and was prepared to develop from there. She did not know why. It was because her heart wanted to come here. It was because this place was very close to the passage. Perhaps one day, when she was really tired, she could go to that world to take a look and relax. The old woman and the 2-meter-tall middle-aged elder were slightly stunned when they saw her smile. This was the first time they had seen such a smile in the past 2 years. All along, the Empress had always been tense. Today, it was the first time they had seen the Empress so relaxed. It's Her Majesty. The old woman smiled and said respectfully. Let's go. Feng Wan smiled and walked outside. The old woman and the 2 elders hurriedly followed behind. Supervisor E also followed with slight astonishment. After walking out of the auction house, Feng Wuan looked at the bustling streets and didn't know where to go. She randomly chose a direction and walked forward. She had the bloodline of the divine dragon. As long as she wasn't too far away, she could sense his existence. Feng Wuan looked around. The old woman following behind looked at her empress's expression and actions. She felt that the empress seemed to be much more relaxed, which made her smile. It's the evil cloud mercenary group. TSK, they were directly assassinated by the dragon Spike last night. I don't know who hired the dragon Spike to kill all the members of the evil cloud mercenary group. Who knows? Every member of the evil cloud mercenary group is an old thing. It's really satisfying to be killed. After walking aimlessly for more than an hour, Feng Wuan heard a conversation coming from the side and looked over curiously. When she saw the red paper of double happiness pasted on the door of the room, her face revealed a stunned expression. This is the symbol of the dragon assassin group. Congratulations on your death. The appearance of this red paper represents death. Director E, who was standing at the side, immediately explained when she saw Feng Wuan's curious look. Congratulations on your death, hee. She smiled lightly and her voice became softer. It was clearly a wedding paper for China's wedding on Earth, but it was made into a symbol. This guy really has a wicked sense of humor. Dragon Assassin Organization. It seems that in just a few short months, you've actually established such a powerful assassin organization. Not bad. She muttered softly, stood there and looked, then continued to walk forward. Chapter 1044, Wasn't a Good Person. This was the first time the old woman was so happy to see the Empress. Even 1,000 years ago, when the Empress descended upon the world, she didn't see the Empress's current expression. She looked like a little woman. But no matter what she looked like, as long as the Empress was happy, she would be happy. Even if the Empress didn't take revenge and return to her Fire Lark clan, the Empress would still be their king. A king above the king of their tribe. Hey, why didn't you reply when I sent you a message a few days ago? Are you pretending that you didn't see it? At this moment, Wang Xian was standing in front of a girl with a hot figure who was even taller than him. He looked a little embarrassed. I was busy a few days ago, so I didn't see your message. I'm really sorry. He replied with a faint smile. The woman was Zhang Fengying. When she was strolling on the streets of the Western District, she suddenly bumped into him. After seeing him, Zhang Fengying walked over with an angry face. He had indeed received a few messages from her in the past few days, but because he had been busy forging weapons and refining pills for the past 2 days, he hadn't replied. Humph, is that so? Zhang Fengying sized him up coldly. With a straight face, she placed her hands in front of her chest. In this state, Wang Xian felt that her hands were a little heavy. Miss Zhang, is there anything you need from me? Wang Xian asked with a smile. Yes. When Zhang Fengying heard Wang Xian's words, she did not know why she was looking for him. She just felt that Wang Xian was a little mysterious and wanted to know more about him. For a moment, she didn't know how to answer him. Oh right, is there anything fun and delicious in the Western District? This is my first time here. Why don't you bring me around? Wang Xian noticed that she was a little embarrassed and followed up. He had nothing to do now. It was just nice to have a beautiful lady to accompany him. Then you found the right person. I've lived here for dozens of years and everyone knows about it. Let's go. Today, I'll be kind enough to bring you to eat something delicious. Zhang Fengying was as fit as her body and said to Wang Xian in a forthright manner. All right, lead the way then. Wang Xian smiled and followed Zhang Fengying around. Zhang Fengying was a forthright girl. She was much older than Wang Xian, but the difference in her lifespan of 500 years was not huge. It's almost noon. Let's go. I'll bring you to the most popular restaurant in the Western District. There won't be any seats if we're late. Zhang Fengying urged him. Wang Xian was a little speechless. It must be something you want to eat. Following behind him, they passed through 2 small alleys and arrived at a street with relatively fewer people. However, this street had relatively fewer people. There were many people gathered in front of a simple and unadorned store. Loud noises came from inside the store. What surprised Wang Xian was that the owner of the store was not a human. Instead, it was a demonic beast with 2 horns and 3 legs that was 2 meters tall. It's the only restaurant owned by a demonic beast in the entire Donghai city. The owner and his family are very nice. The quality of the food and dishes are definitely among the best in the entire Donghai city. As Zhang Fengying spoke, she asked a demonic beast who was serving them, "Are there any private rooms left?" There are no private rooms left. The hall is also full. However, there are still seats in the big private room. The demonic beast spoke in a familiar human language. "Take us there. 2 people, bring out all of your specialties." Zhang Fengying waved her hand and said directly. "Yes, miss, please come." They followed the attendant into a big room, which had 2 tables. The 2 of them chose one of the tables and sat down. "Captain Wang, you must have earned quite a lot of spirit stones from the wind chime forest. Are you going to the auction in 3 days?" After sitting down, Zhang Fengying asked him with a smile on his face. "Auction? Of course I'm going." "Why are you going?" Wang Xian nodded his head. "Of course. I would like to see what the half-step void interpretation level demonic beast bloodline looks like." "It's a half-step void interpretation level," Zhang Fengying said with some yearning. The Zhang family's bloodline was at the peak of level 8 transcendence. Once it reached level 8 transcendence, it would be unable to advance any further. Unless, she could obtain a higher level bloodline and break the shackles of bloodline. Wang Xian smiled. "Aren't you going to the other 2 auction houses to take a look?" "I'm not going. Be it pet eggs or demonic beast cubs, they are not something I can buy. Naturally, I'll go and take a look at the half-step void interpretation level bloodline." Zhang Fengying shook her head and said. "This is the restaurant. It's definitely the most popular restaurant in the entire Donghai city that you have never eaten before." Just as she was speaking, a few people walked in. Wang Xian took a glance and was slightly stunned. Zhang Fengying took a glance, she continued, "Speaking of which, the Phoenix Immortal and the Life and Death Holy Item are fighting each other to the death this time. I didn't expect that the Phoenix Immortal would appear out of nowhere and crush the 2 families directly. Now, the efforts of the 2 families previously are all a joke. Especially Phoenix Immortal. This time, she has lost a lot of face. Not only was her own auction suppressed by the Life and Death Holy Item, but now another Phoenix Immortal has appeared." As she spoke, she shook her head and poured a cup of tea for Wang Xian. "Who lost face? You guys are the ones who lost a lot of face. This time, we will not lose." At this moment, a clear and melodious voice filled with anger was heard, causing Zhang Fengying to be slightly stunned. Wang Xian looked over and saw a cute little loli dressed in red glaring at Zhang Fengying with a pout. He looked at the 3 girls and the young man beside him and had some understanding. "Little girl." Zhang Fengying looked at the little loli and smiled faintly. She did not argue with her. You are the little girl." "I am not young at all." The little loli puffed out her chest fiercely. Zhang Fengying looked at herself and then at the little loli. She asked teasingly, "How are you not young?" The little loli didn't react for a moment. She looked at Zhang Fengying and then at herself. Her expression turned ugly instantly. Compared to Zhang Fengying, she was indeed the smallest. "Miss, ignore them. They are not good people," the young man next to her said to the little loli. He looked at Wang Xian with a hint of hatred in his eyes. "They are in cahoots with the Life and Death Elixir Workshop. So they are bad guys." HMPH, no wonder they are saying bad things about us. Such bad guys should be beaten up by the aunties. The little loli heard the young man's words and snorted. She looked at Wang Xian and Zhang Fengying with a hateful gaze. When Zhang Fengying heard the young man and the little loli's words, she frowned slightly. Mind your words. And you, little girl, don't be so ignorant. Chapter 1045, Conflict in. You are the little girl, you are the ignorant one. All of you are not good people. When the little loli heard Zhang Fengying's words, her small face revealed anger once again as she glared at her. Meanwhile, the gaze of the youth at the side turned cold as he looked at Zhang Fengying. Little girl, is she someone you can call? You don't know what's good for you. The three girls at the side frowned slightly and did not speak. In the Fire Cloud Sparrow clan, no one dared to bully their little princess. Especially after the Empress came, the little princess was deeply in the Empress's heart. Now, even their Fire Cloud Sparrow king could not do anything to the little princess. Logically speaking, the Fire Cloud Sparrow clan could not leave the clan when they were underage. However, she pestered the Empress and brought her here. The little princess was simple-minded and had not experienced any setbacks. Some people called their little princess a little girl. In their eyes, it was indeed a little too much. Bang! Zhang Fengying immediately stood up with a trace of anger on her face. Zhang Fengying would not mind being called a bad person by a little loli. However, for a young man to dare to call her reckless, this was not a matter of age. It was a blatant provocation. Zhang Fengying, who was born in the family of the mercenary group, was tainted with the valiant and forthright attitude of the mercenary group. Reckless? We were just discussing about the auction and you guys provoked us again and again, saying that we are reckless. Do you guys think that we are easy to bully? Zhang Fengying stared at the young man coldly. Her faint aura was directed at them. You guys from Fengxian, are you looking for trouble? Wang Xian also stood up and stared at the young man coldly. Wang Xian didn't have a good impression of this fellow. It was the first time he chased him out of Fengxian, and now he was deliberately looking for trouble. He didn't know if he wanted to die. I think you guys are the ones looking for trouble. Now, get out of here and don't disturb our lady's meal. The young man stared at Wang Xian without showing any signs of weakness. A hint of killing intent could be seen in his eyes. Now, with the little princess around, they dared to be rude to the little princess. If their master and the rest knew about this, they would definitely not forgive this fellow. In fact, they might even kill him directly. Even the kingdom of Starmoon Kingdom would not be able to afford to offend the little princess of the Firelark clan. Therefore, he didn't conceal his provocation towards Wang Xian this time. Do you still treat this place as your home? Arrogant fellow. Zhang Fengying pointed at the young man and said with a cold gaze. You're really a damn fellow. Wang Xian said coldly to the young man as well. Since you're disturbing our lady's meal, I'll throw you out. The young man saw the expressions of the two of them. He moved his body and went straight for Wang Xian. He wanted to use his identity as the little princess to teach this fellow a good lesson. You dare to make a move in the city? Zhang Fengying revealed a shocked expression. This was the first time he had seen such an arrogant fellow. He actually dared to make a move in Donghai City. If he was caught, he would be locked up for at least 1 to 2 years. The young man's 5 fingers formed into claws and his body was covered in a layer of faint red flames. A pair of wings were on both sides. You're courting death. Wang Xian's expression was also a little ugly. He naturally knew the punishment for fighting in the city. Regardless of whether both parties were in the right or wrong, they would all be severely punished. Wang Xian's arm was awe-inspiring. His arm immediately transformed into a dragon claw as he faced the young man's attack. Zhang Fengying's expression was extremely ugly. The interspatial ring on her hand shook and a green light surrounded the surroundings instantly. It enveloped everyone in the surroundings with a formation. Wang Xian sensed the movement techniques around him. The aura on his body increased once again and collided heavily with the young man. Ah! The young man let out a blood-curdling scream. His face was filled with disbelief. You actually have a bloodline. The young man widened his eyes, his body heavily retreating backwards, blood seeping out from the corner of his mouth. You actually hit one of our people. The little Loli's face revealed a trace of anger when she saw that the young man was injured. The three girls standing at the side also had a slight change in expression, and their bodies trembled. Chirp chirp. A bird cry sounded, and a pair of wings instantly appeared behind the three of them, their bodies emitting red flames. Demonic beasts. Zhang Fengying's expression changed instantly. She moved her arm and a long sword appeared in her hand. Her eyes revealed a green color. You guys are really courting death. The young man's eyes were slightly red and the flames on his body started to rise. The green array formation around him started to sway slightly. These guys actually dare to ignore the rules of Donghai City. Zhang Fengying saw that they were about to unleash their full strength and a hint of fear appeared on her face. Wang Xian also frowned slightly. He looked a little embarrassed. Damn it, I bumped into a few lunatics. Die! Wang Xian shouted softly. An item was thrown out from his interspatial ring. Young lady, be careful. The two girls immediately stood in front of the little Loli. Buzz! In an instant, the surroundings suddenly turned dark. One couldn't even see their own fingers. They couldn't even sense anything around them. It was Ao Yao who made a move. The item that Wang Xian threw out earlier was just a pretense. The one who really made a move was Ao Yao. This was the light and darkness of Ao Yao. It could cause the surroundings to fall into the light and darkness. Even Zhang Fengying fell into the darkness in an instant. Bang! 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 The sound of her falling to the ground could be heard. Boom! All of a sudden, a wave of heat was transmitted over and directly dispelled the darkness. Ao Yao's face revealed a trace of shock, and her figure quickly disappeared. The darkness disappeared, and Zhang Fengying regained her sight. When she looked forward, a look of shock appeared on her face. In the center, the little Loli stood there, surrounded by a ball of fire elemental birds. Her clothes, the hairpin on her head, and the necklace on her neck all emitted a red glow. A terrifying majesty emanated from these ornaments. Void interpretation level protective jewelry. Zhang Fengying cried out in surprise, a shocked expression on her face as she stared at the little Loli in disbelief. A child had at least 3 or 4 void interpretation level protective weapons on her. What kind of background did she have to be so extravagant? Even the crown prince of Star Moon Kingdom wouldn't have so many defensive weapons, right? Wang Xian frowned slightly as he looked at this little Loli. His expression didn't look too good either. He didn't want to have a conflict with Feng Xian's people. Ao Yao's attack just now had merely knocked them out. However, when he saw this little Loli, he knew that this matter wouldn't be resolved so easily. You actually knocked them out. You are bad people. At this moment, the little Loli's face was a little pale. She looked at Wang Xian weakly and said, "Someone will come to save me very soon." You. This was the first time the little Loli had encountered such a situation. She had no idea what to do. After all, she was just a little girl who came out without going through the adult assessment. Oh no, the princess's defense is activated. At this moment, the 3 women and the middle-aged man who were dealing with the matter, who were only 1,000 meters away, had their expressions changed drastically and instantly flew over. Chapter 1046, Special Way of Meeting. They could sense the various defensive weapons on the princess once they activated them. It was also because the princess had so many defensive weapons on her that they were at ease to let Hui Yuan and the others bring the princess out while they dealt with some matters. However, what they didn't expect was that the weapon on the princess was actually activated. Once it was triggered, it meant that someone was attacking their princess. Who was it that wanted to die and dared to attack the little princess of the Fire Lark clan? The 4 extraordinary level 9 powerhouses instantly released all their strength and flew towards a room on the 2nd floor of the restaurant. In fact, many people didn't even see their figures. Whoosh! 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 Miss! Miss, are you alright? 4 figures instantly appeared around the little lowly under Wang Xian's grave and Zhang Fengying's shocked gaze. The 4 of them looked at the little lowly and asked with concern. I'm fine. Look at the few sisters and the elder brother. The little lowly heaved a heavy sigh of relief when she saw her men and said hurriedly. A woman waved her arm and the 4 of them stood up immediately. They immediately regained consciousness. Master! Mother! The 4 young men were in a daze. When they saw their elders, they quickly shouted. The young man from the source of fire had a change of expression when he saw that the little princess had activated her weapon's defense. Following that, he extended his hand in anger. He pointed his finger at Wang Xian and said with a slightly ferocious expression, Master, the few aunties were the ones who attacked the young lady. The 3 women and a middle-aged man were extremely cold. They looked at Wang Xian with murderous intent. At the same time, the old woman and the 2 middle-aged men who were following behind the Empress suddenly frowned slightly. Empress, there's a problem with the little girl. The old woman said softly to Feng Wuan. Oh. What's wrong? Feng Wuan turned her head slightly. The defensive weapon on her body has been activated. The old woman said directly. Let's go over. Feng Wuan said directly. After coming to the extraordinary continent and returning to the Fire Cloud Sparrow clan, the thousands of people of the entire clan were all respectful to her. Even the Fire Cloud clan's Grand Supreme bowed respectfully when he saw her. Only that little girl, who was pure and innocent, was not afraid of her and could chat with her. Feng Wuan liked that little girl very much. Yes, Empress. The old woman nodded, picked up the red cane in her hand, and gently moved it. The group of 4 instantly disappeared. That's right, they disappeared in an instant, as if they had teleported. This instant disappearance was dozens of times stronger than Ao Yao's light and shadow escape. Master, Aunt, kill him, kill him. He actually dared to attack the princess. This is an unpardonable crime. In the room of the small restaurant, the ferocious voice of Hui Yuan rang out. The eyes of the 4 middle-aged men were filled with killing intent. The 2 people in front of them had already been sentenced to death for daring to harm their little princess of the Fire Lark clan. At this moment, the surrounding space seemed to tremble. 4 figures appeared out of thin air in the room. The 4 middle-aged men were slightly shocked and quickly bent down to carry their luggage. Wang Xian, who was already in an awkward state, could not help but narrow his eyes when he saw the 4 people who suddenly appeared in the room like ghosts and gods. Zhang Fengying, who was standing at the side, saw their faces turn pale instantly. She grabbed Wang Xian's arm nervously. In an instant, Wang Xian felt a soft sensation on his arm. However, before he could feel it, he was stunned. He looked at the veiled lady with a twinkle in his eyes. At this moment, Feng Wuan was also looking at Wang Xian with a little astonishment. Her eyes were also twinkling. It's over, it's over. We've offended an expert. Zhang Fengying's trembling voice rang out. She shook Wang Xian's arm and was completely flustered. The 4 of them appeared out of thin air. He couldn't even sense how they appeared. Coupled with the hole-in-the-void grade defensive weapon on the little lowly, she knew that they were in big trouble this time. They had provoked an extremely terrifying force. This force had the power to easily wipe them out. This matter is my fault. If you guys want to take revenge, you can just look for me. Zhang Fengying's face was pale as she released Wang Xian's arm. She clenched her fists tightly and took a step forward resolutely. This young lady is quite courageous and loyal. Wang Xian looked at Zhang Fengying's actions and revealed a smile. Sister Feng, they want to hit me. They are bad people. The little loli immediately ran to the side of the veiled lady and pouted her lips as she spoke with some grievance. Feng Wan revealed a smile on her face. Her smile was like a flower as she gently stroked the little girl's head. Hui Yuan, who was at the side, saw that the great empress and the rest had arrived. His eyes were filled with excitement. He looked at Wang Xian with excitement. Ha, kid, you're going to die now. You're going to die. You actually made me so embarrassed and left a bad impression on my master and the rest. You deserve to die, deserve to die. His face slowly turned a little ferocious with excitement. Wang Xian saw Feng Wan's face full of smiles. Even though the veil completely covered her face. However, he could still recognize her at a glance from her eyes. One had to know that there was a period of time when Feng Wan and Shu Qing were in the same body. When Wang Xian saw the change in their eyes, he knew who was controlling the body. Therefore, he would never forget the look in Feng Wan's eyes. Wang Xian walked towards Feng Wan with a smile on his face. Huh? The four middle-aged men were stunned. Even the two middle-aged elders beside Feng Wan had a slight change in their expressions. The two middle-aged elders moved their fingers slightly. However, at this moment, the old woman beside them took a glance at them. The two of them were astonished and did not move. Humph. Wang Xian walked to Feng Wan. The little loli beside him glared at Wang Xian and snorted while pouting her lips. This way of meeting is a little special. Wang Xian looked at Feng Wan and raised his hand with a smile. You are wearing a veil and bringing so many people. Are you trying to show me off? This is not a way for friends to meet. As he spoke, under the shocked gazes of everyone around, Wang Xian pulled the veil off her face. An exquisite and noble face was revealed. She looked at Wang Xian with a smile in her eyes. What a coincidence. She's neither fat nor thin. She's still as beautiful as ever. Wang Xian pulled down his veil and joked while feigning surprise. However, when they heard Wang Xian's words and saw him pulling down their empress's veil, everyone trembled. The eyes of the old woman beside her flickered. Her eyes were filled with shock. The two middle-aged elders widened their eyes and opened their mouths slightly. As for the four middle-aged men and the four young men, they felt as though their eyes were blind. Their faces were filled with disbelief. Even the little loli widened her eyes and opened her mouth. Their empress, how was this possible? Chapter 1047, had an affair with the empress. The empress who once dominated the world and even men looked up to her. The empress who once established an empire and was worshipped by all the people. The empress who once dazzled the supernatural continent and was an empress for all eternity. Once. How did this happen? She was directly pulled off her veil by a young man, and he even faced her in such a casual and even somewhat flirtatious manner. The empress only smiled there, and her smile was filled with ease. It was as if a beautiful girl was smiling sweetly. They felt that the world had gone mad. Back when the old woman accompanied the empress on her expeditions, this was the first time she had seen such an image. And at this moment, Hui Yuan's mind was completely dumbfounded. His face, which was somewhat ferocious and excited, was completely frozen as he looked at this scene in disbelief. He dared to remove the veil of the empress. Why didn't the empress kill him directly? Why was the empress wearing such a brilliant smile on her face? Who was this young man? How could he remove the veil of the empress? Feng Wan snatched the veil from Wang Xian's hand and looked at him with a smile. You said that you would be here soon, but you only came after 2 years. This friend of yours is a little untrustworthy. I have no choice. I have a lot of things to prepare. Wang Xian shrugged and smiled. Doesn't that mean there are a lot of things to arrange? There was a hint of mockery in Feng Wan's tone. She looked at Zhang Fengying and said, not bad. You are still so flirtatious even after coming here. Ahem, this is my friend. It's not what you think. Wang Xian looked at her speechlessly. I didn't expect that we would meet so soon. Is it fast? Feng Wan looked at him and revealed a displeased expression. You knew that I was the one who established Feng Xian. All you had to do was to go to the shop and tell me. The news would be transmitted to me. In the end, you didn't do it even though you knew it. In the end, we met in this manner. Feng Wan's tone was filled with displeasure. Wang Xian smiled awkwardly. I initially thought that I would look for you after I developed a little. I didn't expect to meet you here. Knock, knock, the dishes are served. At this moment, the sound of knocking on the door interrupted their conversation. Let's change the location. Wang Xian looked at Feng Wan and said to her. All right. Feng Wan nodded and gestured to the old lady beside her. The old lady nodded and the red walking stick in her hand emitted a faint red light. Buzz. Everyone in the room disappeared in an instant. Crack. The door was opened and the waiter was holding a plate of food with a smile on his face. Dear guests, where are they? Where did they go? In the auction house in the central area of Donghai City, a group of people appeared directly inside. Wang Xian looked at the old lady in slight shock. The old lady smiled and swept her gaze over to the area beside him. What terrifying strength! Wang Xian was shocked. He had discovered a group of strange demons and brought them over. To be able to move all of them here from another place in an instant, what kind of power was this? Let's go up and have a chat. Feng Wan said to Wang Xian. All right. Wang Xian nodded his head and turned to look at Zhang Fengying. Sister, I'm sorry. I'll chat with my friend for a while. I'll let you bring me around when I have time. I'm sorry. You can go. At this moment, Zhang Fengying was still in a state of shock. She nodded her head mechanically. Oh right, there are still some matters that need to be resolved. Wang Xian turned his head and looked at the source of fire. His eyes revealed a hint of coldness. When the source of fire saw Wang Xian looking at him, his face turned pale instantly. His eyes revealed a look of fear. Cold sweat instantly appeared on his forehead. How could he have thought of this? How could he have thought that the Empress would be so familiar with this young man? In fact, they were even somewhat intimate. If he knew about this, how would he dare to do such a thing? What's going on? Feng Wan frowned slightly and asked Wang Xian. Let this little girl tell me everything from the beginning to the end. Wang Xian patted the little loli's head. HMPH, don't touch my head. The little loli glared at Wang Xian. Little girl, tell me. The old woman said to the little loli. Yes, grandma. The little loli was a little afraid of the old lady. She pouted her lips and recounted everything that happened when they entered the shop. The little loli had a very good memory. Basically, she even recounted every word of their conversation. However, as the little loli spoke, Hui Yuan's face turned even paler. There was even a hint of despair in his eyes. The middle-aged man's face also changed drastically as cold sweat dripped down his forehead. His eyes were filled with anger as he stared at his disciple. He actually dared to use the little princess to take revenge on him. He really had the gall to do so. The old woman's face turned slightly grim when she heard the little loli's words. They had already learned that Hui Yuan had a grudge against Wang Xian. From the description of the little loli, it was obvious that the little girl was being used. Using the little princess of the Fire Lark clan to deal with a male friend who was very close to the Empress. Yes, it was a male friend. The concept of this sentence was somewhat vague because they couldn't figure out the relationship between the young man and their empress. They could only describe it as a male friend. This crime involved the little princess and the empress. Deal with it according to the clan rules. The old woman said directly. Yes, yes. The three women and the master of the source of fire hurriedly lowered their heads and replied. At this moment, the source of fire had already collapsed on the ground in despair. Dealing with him according to the clan rules was unforgivable. Let's go. Feng Wan said to Wang Xian. All right, let's go. Wang Xian nodded with a smile and followed her upstairs. Educate the little girl. Behind them, a middle-aged clan elder said to a woman. It's the clan elder. A woman quickly replied. Of course, education was not a punishment. It was to tell the little girl that he was being used. After the matter was settled, the old woman and the two middle-aged clan elders walked towards the fourth floor. You don't have to follow your subordinates, right? Feng Wan opened the door and spoke to Wang Xian who was beside her. Dragon Queen. A group of strange demons appeared and greeted Feng Wan respectfully. Feng Wan's face turned slightly red. She quickly put on a cold expression and said, I'm not your Dragon Queen. After she finished speaking, she glanced at Wang Xian and said, your subordinates are behaving like this. Hee hee. Wang Xian smiled and said proudly, how is it? The Dragon Assassin Organization. Before long, the might of the dragon thorns will envelop the entire Star Moon Kingdom. Feng Wan's gaze landed on Ao Yao. Her eyes were filled with astonishment. Let's go, let's go. Aren't you going to pour me some tea? Oh right, you should have some good tea here, right? Wang Xian walked in with a smile. Feng Wan smiled and followed him in. Yes, it's definitely better than the tea you've drunk before. The old woman and the two middle-aged elders who followed them to the fourth floor were filled with astonishment. Dragon Queen. Serve him tea. This young man is definitely having an affair with the Empress. Chapter 1048, Target. The old woman did not know what had happened to Her Majesty the Empress. However, she would support the Empress 100% in whatever she did. Even if the Empress wanted to take in a man as her husband, she would support him unconditionally. The old woman did not enter the room. Instead, she gently closed the door. Today was the happiest day since she had followed the Empress. Naturally, she could not disturb her. After closing the door, her eyes flickered when she looked at the group of strange demons beside her. Her eyes were filled with shock as well. The light and darkness were perfectly fused together. What kind of demonic beast race was this? However, she could sense that this demonic beast race was very powerful. Have a taste. In the room, Feng Wan poured a cup of tea for Wang Xian. She asked with a smile, has Sister Shu Qing and the rest arrived yet? No. I was afraid that they weren't strong enough, so I didn't ask them to come here for the time being. Wang Xian shook his head and looked at Feng Wan. However, with such a powerful lackey around, I can call them over. Feng Wan revealed a bitter smile. Things are different from what you saw. How is it different? Your current strength is at level 1 of the Void Interpretation stage. The two middle-aged men outside are also Void Interpretation stage powerhouses. The strength of that old lady is even more unfathomable. This is just what I saw. Your current strength should be very strong in the Empire, right? Wang Xian said with a smile. The Firecloud Sparrow clan was my personal guard in the past. Ever since I fell, they withdrew from the Phoenix dynasty and lived in seclusion in the Firecloud mountain range. I was betrayed and killed by some people from the dynasty. Now, the Phoenix dynasty is in the hands of those people. Feng Wan poured herself a cup of tea. The strength of the Firecloud Sparrow clan cannot be moved. Once they move, the Phoenix dynasty will know that I'm not dead. If they knew that I'm still alive, they would mobilize the entire Empire's forces to kill me. More than 1,000 years have passed, and I no longer have anyone in the Phoenix Empire. As Feng Yuan spoke, her expression slowly darkened. You mean to say that you can't touch the Fire Cloud Sparrow clan? At most, they can only provide some resources. Do you still need to rely on yourself for everything? Wang Xian frowned slightly and said slowly. When they don't have the ability to resist the Phoenix dynasty, the Fire Lark clan cannot be moved. Moreover, the Fire Lark clan doesn't have many resources. They still have to sustain the birth of their own race. Hence, I established the Phoenix Elixir and Weapons Workshop. Feng Yuan replied. Do I need you to start from scratch? Wang Xian looked at her. Yes, starting from scratch is 10 times more difficult than 1,000 years ago. More than 1,000 years ago, she directly inherited the throne. She had the resources and manpower under her. That was why she was able to become the #1 empress of all time. Now, she didn't have anyone and didn't have many resources. Most importantly, she had an enemy, the Phoenix dynasty. The difficulty was 10 times or even dozens of times more than before. Do you know how long it took me to stand at the top of the earth? Wang Xian suddenly asked her. Feng Yuan looked at him in surprise. 2 years. In 2 years, no one on earth can rival the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian answered his own question with a strong confidence on his face. Feng Yuan looked at him and nodded with a smile. Do you know how long I have been in the Transcendence continent? 3 months. I have established the Dragon Spike mercenary group, which is awe-inspiring in the entire East Sea City. In the entire East Sea City, other than the City Lord of East Sea City and the leader of the Ocean Cultivators, I cannot kill anyone in the entire East Sea City, including the towns under East Sea City. In 10 years, do you believe that I can stand at the top of the Transcendence continent? Wang Xian exuded a strong sense of confidence as he stared at Feng Yuan with burning eyes. Feng Yuan looked at him with sparkling eyes and didn't say anything. So when I came to the Transcendence continent, I was still thinking about how we would develop independently and see who would stand at the top of the Transcendence continent first. Now, it seems that I will stand at the top of the Transcendence continent first. As Wang Xian spoke, he stood up and looked at Feng Yuan with a smile. Then, he continued, but it doesn't matter. As long as I'm here, I will help you take revenge. I will destroy the Feng dynasty and stand on the throne once again. I will become the #1 empress of all time. At most, in 10 years. He said the last sentence heavily. Feng Yuan looked at him and smiled. She stood up and stared at him. I don't need your help. Since you said that we will see who will stand at the peak of transcendence first, I would also like to see if it's you or me. Ha, alright. However, you are destined to lose to me. Wang Xian laughed. But now, I still need your help. My Immortal Phoenix auction is going to be held here. Also, Feng Xian, help me promote it. Is that alright, Your Majesty? Feng Yuan opened her mouth and rolled her eyes at him. She was very flirtatious. Alright, I will get someone to instruct you later. Feng Yuan smiled and said to him. Sure. Wang Xian smiled and started to chat with Feng Yuan. When they talked about the future development, Feng Yuan told Wang Xian all of her thoughts. This included his desire to conquer Donghai City and his development today. Wang Xian listened quietly at the side. He also told him about his intention to move the Dragon Palace to the supernatural continent. The two of them talked in the room for at least 3 to 4 hours. Alright, it's getting dark. I should leave now. I'll look for you tomorrow. The sky outside the window turned dark. Wang Xian stood up and said to Feng Yuan. Okay, where do you live? Feng Yuan nodded and asked him. I don't have a place to live. Aren't you going to let me stay? Wang Xian looked at the boudoir inside and said with a smile. Take care. Feng Wan stretched her back and walked straight inside. Wang Xian shook his head and left after giving a shout. After pushing open the door, the old woman and two middle-aged men stood guard there. The three of them nodded at him in a friendly manner. Young Master Wang. On the first floor, the three women greeted Wang Xian respectfully. The young master in front of him had such a close relationship with their empress. He had to be careful in the future. Okay. Wang Xian nodded and walked out of the auction house. He looked around. Reach the peak again. Destroy the Phoenix dynasty. That is your goal. However, I have a goal for myself too. Unify the supernatural continent sea area and help you become the first empress since ancient times. When the time comes, I will rule the sea. You will rule the land. Wang Xian narrowed his eyes slightly and walked toward an inn not far away. One must have a goal. Wang Xian had already set his goal. The only thing was that he didn't know when he would be able to accomplish it. Within 10 years. He hoped that he would be able to accomplish his goal within 10 years. On the fourth floor of the restaurant, Feng Wan stood in front of the window. She looked at Wang Xian's figure with a happy smile on her face. The journey in the future will not be lonely. Chapter 1049, Grand Auction. Holy crap! This morning, the Immortal Phoenix Pill and Weapon Workshop announced a piece of news. In the auction 2 days later, Immortal Phoenix will be auctioning together with Immortal Phoenix. There will be a half-step void interpretation pet egg and the bloodline of a half-step void interpretation demon beast. Are you serious? Immortal Phoenix and Immortal Phoenix are auctioning together? I knew it. This Immortal Phoenix auction is very strange. Not only did it appear out of nowhere, but its name and Immortal Phoenix's name are completely reversed. Was Immortal Phoenix pretending on purpose? This Immortal Phoenix should be a deliberate disguise of Immortal Phoenix. However, why would Immortal Phoenix do such a thing? I don't understand. I don't understand. Regardless of whether it's a disguise or not, Immortal Phoenix plus all of the Immortal Phoenix's items are simply insane. I heard that Immortal Phoenix has already spread the word in other cities. Many great clans of Star Moon Kingdom are rushing over to East Sea City. When the time comes, the ones competing will not be those great clans of Eastern Sea City, but those great clans from Star Moon Kingdom. The Phoenix Immortal is really awesome this time. Early the next morning, a piece of news spread throughout the city, causing everyone to discuss it excitedly. The Phoenix Immortal and the Immortal Phoenix were auctioned together, and they were named the Phoenix Immortal Auction. The items that were auctioned together simply made everyone go crazy. All the influential clans in East Sea City were looking forward to the auction 2 days later. The union of Immortal Phoenix and Immortal Phoenix gave them more choices in this auction. If they couldn't get the half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline, they could at least compete for the half-step void interpretation pet egg. The people of the big families began to prepare spirit stones. What? There is such a grand auction in the Eastern Sea City? It will be held in 2 days. Quick, take all the spirit stones of the family and go to the Eastern Sea City immediately. The Phoenix Immortal is auctioning the half-step void interpretation demon beast bloodline in the Eastern Sea City. Such a precious bloodline will be auctioned. We must get it, we must get it. Although I am a void interpretation expert, look at all of you. Each and every one of you are trash. Your entire clan doesn't even have a half-step void interpretation demon beast bloodline. When I die, this clan will be defeated by you. Quick, don't you know that the Phoenix Immortal of the Eastern Sea City is auctioning off the half-step void interpretation demon beast bloodline? Hurry up and bring all of your valuables with me. Immediately rush to the Eastern Sea City. Some of the big families in Star Moon City and the other 8 cities of Star Moon Kingdom immediately rushed to East Sea City when they received the news from Phoenix Immortal. It was the bloodline of a half-step void interpretation demon beast, a bloodline that even void interpretation experts would be tempted by. For a time, many powerful forces rushed to East Sea City. Phoenix Immortal, Immortal Phoenix, as expected, the worst news has appeared. What bullshit Immortal Phoenix? It's Phoenix Immortal's own trick. What do they mean by this? They deliberately created an immortal phoenix, meaning that I created an immortal phoenix myself, and then joined forces with them to deliberately discuss the matter of our life and death, joining forces with your holy relic? It must be like this. Fuck, Immortal Phoenix's move is really disgusting. At this moment, in the East District's auction house, the senior executives of the Life and Death Pill Workshop and the Holy Relic Forging Workshop were sitting together, slapping the table with angry faces. The scene that they didn't want to see the most had appeared. The Immortal Phoenix was the Immortal Phoenix. Yesterday, they had sent the message to the senior executives. The senior executives' intention was to wait and see. Their intention was also very obvious. They also couldn't take out an item that was more precious than a half-step void interpretation bloodline. The matter of the auction would depend on the situation at that time. Now that the Immortal Phoenix was the Immortal Phoenix, there was no need for them to hold the auction this time. Fuck, even if they held the auction, no one would come to their place on that day. Was it going to be delayed by a day? Then it would be better not to hold the auction. Looks like the auction this time is going to be cancelled. I didn't expect that the Immortal Phoenix would be able to turn things around. An old man said with a somewhat embarrassed expression. Peng, damned Immortal Phoenix. A middle-aged man slammed the table angrily. Looks like the auction in 2 days will be a grand event. Wang Xian and Feng Wan were walking on the streets. When they heard the discussions around them, a smile appeared on their faces. The bloodline of a half-step void interpretation demonic beast is very precious. If it were placed in the kingdom, it would cause a huge sensation. This demonic beast bloodline should be able to sell for 40 to 50 billion middle-grade spirit stones. Feng Wan said with a smile, "Where did you get it?" "From the territory of the wind-winged savage fish." "Hee, good luck." Wang Xian smiled. 40 to 50 billion mid-grade spirit stones. After obtaining it, his strength would be able to rise to extraordinary level 6. The strength of the group of strange demons would also be able to rise by a lot. After this auction, his faction would receive a huge boost. Let's go to the place where we prepared to eat yesterday. Since we didn't manage to eat yesterday, let's try it today. Wang Xian brought Feng Wan to the Western District. All right. Feng Wan nodded her head. Brother, I'm sorry for what happened yesterday. I've misunderstood you. The little lowly, who had been following behind them, saw that they had stopped talking and immediately walked over. She held Wang Xian's arm and apologized with a pout. It's all right, little girl. Wang Xian smiled and shook his head. I told you, I'm not young anymore. The little lowly said with slight dissatisfaction. How are you old? Wang Xian revealed a teasing expression as he looked at the little lowly. The little lowly looked at his expression and lowered her head to look at herself. Suddenly, she thought of the big sister from yesterday and her expression instantly fell. She was indeed very young. HMPH, we have to let Sister Shu Qing and the rest come over earlier. At this moment, Feng Wan's cold snort came from the side. Wang Xian looked at her innocently. Walk faster. Feng Wan glanced at him and said. Wang Xian opened his mouth. He couldn't understand why Feng Wan's expression had turned cold. He shook his head and followed behind her. Time passed slowly. Feng Wan's auction was held at night. During these 2 days, many powerful families from other cities in the Star Moon Kingdom had appeared in Donghai City. Each of them was dressed luxuriously, or they were emitting powerful auras, causing the ordinary people in East Sea City to feel extremely nervous as they passed by. On the streets, the rarely seen rank 6 and rank 7 transcendent mounts were walking on the streets. The citizens of East Sea City even saw the city lord personally go to the city gates to welcome a group of people. Who could make City Lord Lei come out of the city to welcome them? Without a doubt, it was an expert at the Profound Void tier. As for how many hidden Profound Void tier experts were there, nobody knew. According to the information that some busybodies had gathered, there were more than 30 powerful factions that came to the Eastern Sea City. These powerful clans, factions, and experts were all here for the half-step Profound Void tier Demon Beast bloodline. Everyone could imagine that when the auction was held, it would be an intense auction. Chapter 1050, Tickets were hard to obtain. Hurry up, hurry up. I heard that there are close to 10,000 people gathered at the Phoenix Immortal Auction House. That auction can only allow up to 5,000 people to enter. I heard that not just anyone can enter the auction this time. They have to meet certain conditions. That's only natural. If you want to enter, you have to have spirit stones and medicinal pills. Not just anyone can enter such a grand auction. The auction held by Phoenix Immortal is considered the best in the entire Star Moon Kingdom. If I can enter, I'll be satisfied just by looking at it. In the afternoon, many people from Eastern Sea City walked towards the central area, their faces filled with excitement as they chatted. Although the auction was held in the evening, many people had already come to obtain the qualifications to enter. They were afraid that they would be late and would not be qualified to enter. When everyone arrived, they realized that there were already tens of thousands of people gathered around the auction house. At this moment, the door of the auction house was still tightly shut. There were still a few minutes before the tickets were issued. If we sell tickets, we can earn a lot of spirit stones just by selling the tickets. Wang Xian looked at Feng Wan's room and smiled at the crowd gathered below. The bloodline of a half-step void interpretation demonic beast is very attractive. If there are no strong people overseeing this auction, there might be people who will fight for it in the city. Feng Wan sat in front of the table and read a book. She didn't wear a veil. When she was with Wang Xian, she didn't wear a veil at all. In that case, I'll get your men to come over later. Wang Xian nodded his head. Looking at the current situation, it might be possible for an insightful void martial artist to rob the auction house in the city. If he didn't encounter Feng Wan, he might have encountered some troublesome problems. Don't worry. Feng Wan nodded. Boom. At this moment, the door of the auction house suddenly opened with a loud sound. It's open, it's open. What qualifications do you have to enter tonight's auction? Do you want to buy tickets? We are from the AO family of Winterfell. Give us 10 tickets to enter. The moment the door opened, the surroundings immediately became noisy. Oh my god, in the middle is the half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline. Oh my god, it's the green liquid in the transparent pool. Beside it is the half-step void interpretation pet egg. Ah, I'm going crazy. How great would it be if these two things were mine? If we can get these two things, as long as we don't die, we can build a powerful family in a few decades. At this moment, everyone's gaze turned towards the auction house. There, the half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline and the half-step void interpretation pet egg were placed directly in the center. Everyone's eyes revealed a fiery expression, and there were even many people whose eyes were filled with greed, wanting to directly snatch them away. It really is the half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline. At this moment, in the surrounding restaurants and crowd, a few ordinary-looking middle-aged men and old men looked at the green liquid, their eyes shining brightly. Their eyes flickered as they scanned their surroundings, slightly clenching their fists. They wanted to directly start the fight. This half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline in front of them was also worthy of them taking action. But they also had a trace of fear. After all, the Phoenix Immortal had the Fire Cloud Sparrow clan behind her. The Fire Cloud Sparrow clan was simply not someone they could provoke. Damn, wealth comes from danger, as long as no one finds out. A profound void tier powerhouse made up his mind. Boom. Right at this moment, the 4 or 5 profound void tier powerhouses hiding in the surroundings instantly felt their breathing stop. And the people standing in front of the auction house instantly felt as if the sky was falling down. The noisy sounds instantly disappeared, and everyone's faces were filled with shock as they looked at a red-haired middle-aged man who slowly walked out. The red-haired middle-aged man's gaze swept over a few places, his eyes revealing a trace of disdain. Tonight, the Phoenix Immortal auction will be held at 7 o'clock in the evening. The auction venue can accommodate 5,000 people. Firstly, those above Transcendent 6th rank, including Transcendent 6th rank, can enter directly. Secondly, those with spirit stones and medicinal pills worth 1,000,000 middle-grade spirit stones can enter. The red-haired middle-aged man said as he waved his arm. One after another, fiery red tickets flew out in all directions. Each ticket accurately landed in the hands of the Transcendent Level 6 and above experts. Even those hidden profound void martial experts received one ticket. The fiery red tickets directly floated in front of them. Hiss! In an instant, the middle-aged man's move caused everyone to suck in a breath of cold air. Their faces were filled with shock. The eyes of the few insightful emptiness realm experts in the dark narrowed slightly. The thoughts in their hearts were completely interrupted. What terrifying strength. I can sense that he can easily insta-kill me. Just what level is he at in the insightful emptiness realm? A cold sweat appeared on the forehead of a profound void tier expert. Just a moment ago, he was prepared to fight for it. If he really made a move, he would have already become a dead man. It should be the force behind the Phoenix Immortal, an expert of the Fire Cloud Sparrow clan. Moreover, he is a very top-notch existence. Too terrifying, the Fire Cloud Sparrow clan actually sent such a terrifying expert to ensure the conduct of this auction. Everyone in the surroundings looked on with faces full of shock. Those whose strength is below Transcendent Rank 6, and whose spirit stones and medicinal pills meet the criteria will have their spirit stones and medicinal pills examined later. Those who meet the criteria will have their admission tickets given to you. The red-haired middle-aged man said one last sentence and directly disappeared. Those whose strength has reached Transcendent Rank 6 and possess assets worth 1,000,000 middle-grade spirit stones, there aren't many who can meet the criteria in Eastern Sea City. Bullshit. Over the past 2 days, there have been 30 to 40 great clans and some mercenary groups that came to join in the fun. There are at least 3,000 to 4,000 Transcendent Rank 6 people in our Eastern Sea City. Including those who came in with spirit stones, there are definitely more than 5,000 of them. Sigh, it seems like I don't have a chance. I really can't accept the fact that I can't enter such a prosperous era. How depressing. It's mainly because there are too many people from other cities. If the standard is low, the auction house won't be able to hold them. Is there anyone who doesn't want a ticket for a Transcendent Rank 6 friend? I can ask for 1,000 middle-grade spirit stones to buy them. I'll give you 1,500, do you have one? The crowd around them were discussing among themselves. Suddenly, they began to buy the admission tickets. They could buy the admission tickets for free and sell them at a high price. This was a huge benefit. However, no one sold the tickets. Even if they knew that they couldn't bid for the half-step void interpretation demon beast bloodline, they still wanted to see the auction competition. Chapter 1051, You Think You Can Still Enter? Go! The tickets for the Phoenix Immortal auction exploded, and soon, the tickets were fired. The auction house could hold 5,000 guests. If it were only experts and people of status in East Sea City, it could definitely hold them. However, in the past 2 days, the East Sea auction had caused a great sensation throughout Star Moon Kingdom. Star Moon Kingdom had 10 cities and 80 towns. Just those people in East Ocean City were familiar with, and 30 to 40 families had come to participate in this auction. This did not include those who were not well known, or those who had come low-key. One had to know that not only did the city have powerful families, but there were also quite a number of powerful families in some towns. Even if only 1/3 of the powerful clans were to come, it would still be quite a large number. Although Feng Xian had already raised her eligibility for admission to a very high level, it was still difficult to obtain a single ticket. By 4 o'clock in the afternoon, all the admission tickets had been distributed. After that, there were still many people who wanted to enter. It even reached 5,000 middle-grade spirit stones in exchange for an admission ticket. 5,000 middle-grade spirit stones was equivalent to the price of the corpse of a transcendent 4th-rank fierce beast. One could imagine how popular the auction tonight would be. TSK, Feng Xian directly placed the half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline in the center of the auction. Aren't you afraid that someone will come and snatch it away? Some of the experts who had come from outside the city looked at the green demonic beast bloodline in the auction house, their eyes filled with greed as they spoke. Hee, go and snatch it. I heard that there are super experts of the fire cloud sparrow race guarding this place. Who dares to take the spear? Whoever dares to snatch it will be fighting with the fire cloud sparrow race. A middle-aged man at the side said somewhat disdainfully. Experts of the fire cloud sparrow race? With the experts of the fire cloud sparrow race guarding this place, even the royal family of Star Moon Kingdom wouldn't dare to come and snatch it. After all, that is a top-grade demonic beast race. The expression in the eyes of the middle-aged man who spoke was retracted and a solemn expression appeared on his face. An expert from the fire cloud sparrow race was at least an expert at the profound void tier. Furthermore, it was very likely that he wasn't an ordinary expert at the profound void tier. Anyone who dared to come and snatch it would be courting death. An expert at the profound void tier wouldn't take such a risk just for the sake of a demonic beast bloodline. Are you going to leave after the auction ends? At this moment, on the 4th floor of the auction, Wang Xian asked Feng Wuan with a frown. Yes, I have to go back and settle some matters. I should be back in a month or so. When I come back again, I will have to settle down here. Feng Wuan nodded and said. It's just right for us to settle down. We can also take care of each other. Wang Xian smiled and continued, are you going out to eat something? I'm not going. You go ahead. I'll take a look at some information. Feng Wuan shook her head. Then I'll bring you some food later. Let's go. Wang Xian walked out directly. Creak. The old lady who was standing outside walked in and closed the door gently. Empress, are you sure you want to start the operation now? Aren't you going to wait for a few more years to accumulate enough? The old woman walked in and said slowly. No, we can take action now. The development of city by city is safer. Feng Wuan put down the book and said in deep thought. If the Empress wants to take action, I can't follow you at all times. The old woman said faintly. Don't worry, I will be fine. When I can contend against the Feng dynasty, I will need you to fight for me. Feng Wuan said slowly. I look forward to that day arriving as soon as possible. At that time, our Fire Cloud personal guards will once again shake the Transcendence continent. The old woman's face was filled with yearning and determination as she said with a smile. I will. Feng Wuan stood up with a smile. The future development would depend on herself. The Fire Cloud Sparrow clan couldn't let anyone know about it at the moment. Let's see who develops faster. Feng Wuan smiled when she thought of Wang Xian's plan to move the Dragon Palace to the Transcendence continent. Wang Xian, who had just walked out of the auction house, received a message from the communication stone plate. He smiled when he saw that it was from Zhang Fengying. Zhang Fengying was asking him for admission tickets to the auction. Come over. Let me know when you arrive at the auction house. Wang Xian informed Zhang Fengying before entering a restaurant not far away. All the restaurants were full. Wang Xian waited for a full 20 minutes before eating. Auntie, where's your friend? The auction is about to start. In front of the auction house, a young man stood beside Zhang Fengying and asked her in a low voice. Beside the young man, 2 young men and 3 or 4 girls were waiting. You haven't come yet, and you still have the cheek to ask me for 7 admission tickets. Do you think it's so easy to get admission tickets? Zhang Fengying rolled her eyes at her nephew and said unhappily. Little aunt, I didn't want to, but you said you could get admission tickets. The young man looked like he was about to cry. He begged Zhang Fengying, if auntie can't get tickets, I'll be so embarrassed. Embarrassed? Humph, I think you're trying to pick up a girl. Zhang Fengying glanced at a girl at the side and said disdainfully. The girl was very beautiful. She held an exquisite long sword in her hand and looked slim and graceful. Hee hee. The young man touched his head and smiled. All right, I'll send another message. Wait. Zhang Fengying took out her communication stone plate and said impatiently. This nephew of hers was unreliable, and so was Wang Xian. Zhang Yushu, when can we enter? At this moment, the girl holding the long sword asked the young man. Xiao Mei, wait, right now, right now. Zhang Yushu hurriedly said. Oh. The girl lightly nodded her head and looked at the auction house. One after another, many people walked into the auction house. They raised their heads and revealed proud expressions. Being able to participate in the Phoenix Immortal auction tonight could be considered as a symbol of status. A few of the students from the Ocean Academy wanted to go in and take a look. Xiao Mei, you're here too. At this moment, a youth's voice came from the side. The youth was dressed in aqua blue, and there were 4 to 5 youths beside him. The girl nodded at him. Zhang Yushu, you guys are here too. The young man in aqua blue suddenly looked at Zhang Yushu and raised his eyebrows. Why? Am I not allowed to come? Zhang Yushu said with an embarrassed expression. Why are you not allowed to come? But, why aren't you guys going in? The young man in aqua blue smiled. We will go in later. Several young men beside Zhang Yushu also said with a bad expression. Chapter 1052, You think you can still get in? Wait for a while. Ha, interesting, really interesting. Hearing Zhang Yushu and the others' words, the young man in aqua blue suddenly burst into laughter. He looked at Zhang Yushu and the others with a mocking expression on his face. There are still more than 10 minutes before the auction starts. Do you know that the tickets have already been distributed in the afternoon? At this time, even if you offer tens of thousands of middle-grade spirit stones, there might not be anyone who will sell them to you. Why wait a little longer? Do you think you guys can still enter? The young man in aqua blue said as he looked at the slender girl. Xiao Mei, do you want to go in? I just happen to have another ticket here. This? The girl named Xiao Mei was stunned. She looked at Zhang Yushu and frowned. Zhang Yushu looked embarrassed. He stared at the young man and said, Haowen, don't look for trouble. What am I looking for? The young man shrugged and smiled. He took out an admission ticket and looked at Xiao Mei. How about Xiao Mei? Come in with us. Forget it. I'll go in with Zhang Yushu and Tingting. Xiao Mei hesitated for a moment but refused. Xiao Mei, if you don't go in with us now, you won't be able to go in. It's impossible to go in at this time. Do you think that Zhang Yushu can bring you in with him? Even if Zhang Yushu's father came, he wouldn't have the ability to get 7 tickets. In fact, we're just going to take a look. The youth in blue glanced at Zhang Fengying and said to Xiao Mei with a smile. Xiao Mei looked hesitant. She looked at her companions and hesitated. Yushu, when can we enter? If we don't, we won't be able to enter. Look at Xiao Mei, she's hesitating. A young man walked to Zhang Yushu's side and asked softly. This. Zhang Yushu looked at Zhang Fengying with a sullen face. He looked like he was asking for help. Zhang Fengying looked at him and then at the girl called Xiao Mei. She shrugged and said, I don't know. It proves that we can enter today. This. The young man's mouth twitched when he heard Zhang Fengying's words. He felt that it was a little unreliable. Xiaomei, how is it? You might have to stand here for the whole night with an unreliable person. The young man in the water blue clothes curled up the corners of his mouth, and a teasing look appeared on his face. Xiaomei looked at Zhang Yushu. Xiaomei, this. Let's wait a little longer. Zhang Yushu looked at her with an embarrassed expression. Zhang Yushu, don't tell me you want Xiaomei to stand with you until the auction starts and then go back obediently. If you can still enter the auction at this time, Hai Wen, will take a detour when I see you in the future, hee. The corner of the lips of the youth dressed in aqua blue slightly curled up as he spoke with confidence. Zhang Yushu, can you really bring us in? Xiaomei looked at him and asked. Zhang Yushu looked at Zhang Fengying with an aggrieved expression. Wait. Zhang Fengying said expressionlessly. Xiaomei looked at Zhang Fengying, then looked at Zhang Yushu. She hesitated for a moment before her gaze landed on the young man. Xiaomei, don't wait with them. Let's go. Not everyone can get the few tickets that I asked my father for. The young man in aqua blue clothes glanced at Zhang Yushu and the rest with a look of disdain. Then. All right. Xiaomei nodded and looked at Zhang Yushu. She said indifferently, thank you for inviting me, but I'm a little sorry. Xiaomei. Zhang Yushu looked extremely embarrassed when he saw that she wanted to go in with a young man who had a conflict with him. Hi, big sister. At this moment, Wang Xian's voice rang out. As the restaurant was full, they waited for 20 minutes for their meal. After receiving Zhang Fengying's message, they ate a little and packed a little for Feng Wuan before rushing over. When he saw Zhang Fengying, whose face was a little frosty, he walked over with a smile. How long have I been waiting for you? Zhang Fengying glared at him and said in a displeased tone. Ahem, I just finished my meal. Wang Xian smiled. Zhang Yushu and the rest looked at Wang Xian and sized him up. They were surprised. With Wang Xian's attire, he didn't look like someone who could get 7 admission tickets. Huh? Xiaomei was curious when she saw Wang Xian walking over. He had an admission ticket. Brother, do you have an admission ticket? Let's go in quickly. Zhang Yushu looked at Wang Xian and asked hurriedly. Wang Xian looked at him and then looked at Zhang Fengying. Xiaotian's younger brother. Zhang Fengying explained. Oh. Wang Xian nodded. Zhang Yitian's younger brother. Isn't he your nephew? Why are you sparing him so much? Let's go in. Wang Xian said to Zhang Fengying directly. Okay. Zhang Fengying nodded. Do you guys have so many tickets? A young man dressed in aqua blue looked at Wang Xian and asked with a frown. Wang Xian's attire didn't look like he was the son of an aristocratic family. Furthermore, he knew all the influential aristocratic family disciples in the entire Donghai city. There shouldn't be someone like him in Donghai city. It was impossible for the families from other cities to obtain so many tickets. Even the big families in the capital city would at most get 1 ticket each. The words of the aquamarine young man made Zhang Yushu and the other young men and women beside him look at Wang Xian immediately. Zhang Yushu looked a little nervous. No. Wang Xian shook his head. Zhang Yushu's expression changed. The faces of his classmates changed as well. What the fuck? How are you going to enter without tickets? This was Feng Xian's auction and a super powerhouse was overseeing it. Without tickets, it wouldn't be easy for a see-through void stage powerhouse to enter. Ha, interesting. This is really interesting. Without tickets, are you going to wait at the entrance? However, the door will be closed when the time comes. You might be able to hear the sound if you stand at the entrance. The young man in aquamarine clothes laughed out loud. He couldn't help but give Wang Xian a thumbs up. His face was filled with mockery. Xiao Mei was also slightly stunned. She shook her head mockingly and looked at the young man in aquamarine clothes. Young Master Hai, shall we go in? There are still 5 minutes left. However, I would like to see how they were chased out. Ha! The young man in aqua blue looked at Wang Xian and the rest with a smile on his face. He was waiting for a good show. Wang Xian was slightly taken aback when he heard his words. He shook his head in amusement. Let's go. Wang Xian said to Zhang Fengying as he walked towards the auction house. Follow him. Zhang Fengying nodded and said to her nephew. She followed Wang Xian and walked straight towards the entrance of the auction house. This made Zhang Yushu and the rest slightly stunned. They looked at each other and gritted their teeth as they followed behind. They shouldn't be thrown out, right? Maybe they could really enter. They were trying to hypnotize themselves. They came with me. Wang Xian was walking in the front. When he reached the entrance, the 3 women and a middle-aged man were scanning the entrance tickets. Wang Xian said to them directly. Yes, yes. The 4 of them nodded with smiles on their faces. Zhang Fengying was not surprised at all. She followed behind and walked in. Zhang Yushu and the rest followed behind with a look of astonishment on their faces. Are you sure you don't want admission tickets? Chapter 1053, 1054 Face could be used as an admission ticket. They entered. The 4 middle-aged men at the door only took a glance and entered. Zhang Yushu and the others followed behind with stunned faces. He couldn't help but look behind them. Each of them had an admission ticket in their hands. The 4 middle-aged men only entered after taking a glance. Could it be that they could enter without a ticket? The faces of the young man in aquamarine and Xiao Mei, who were prepared to watch them make a fool of themselves, turned stiff. They could enter the arena directly. Young Master Hai, what? What's going on? Didn't you ask for tickets? A young man whispered to the young man in aquamarine. Let's go, we'll go too. The expression of the young man in aquamarine changed. They didn't hear what Wang Xian said just now. In fact, Wang Xian sent a voice transmission directly to the 4 middle-aged men. Now that Feng Xian was under everyone's gaze, he didn't want anyone to pay attention to him at this moment. Therefore, from their point of view, the group of people walked straight in without even taking out their tickets. The young man in aqua blue walked straight to the auction. A few young men and Xiao Mei immediately followed behind him. Tickets. However, just as they reached the entrance, a cold gaze landed on the young man in aqua blue and said coldly. This made him choke, and his expression changed slightly. They just entered. If you don't have tickets, then get out. The middle-aged man revealed a faint aura as he looked at him coldly. I have it, I have it. Sensing the middle-aged man's aura, the young man's expression changed slightly and he quickly took out the tickets. The middle-aged man glanced at them and did not say anything. The young man's expression was extremely ugly and the other young men and Xiao Mei behind him had strange expressions on their faces. What the fuck? How could they enter without tickets? At this moment, Zhang Yushu and the others who had just entered were also a little dumbfounded when they saw this scene. What was going on? They had walked straight in, but Hai Wen and the others had to take out their tickets to enter. This. Xiao Mei, come with us. Zhang Yushu saw Xiao Mei and hurriedly said. Zhang Fengying, who was at the side, looked at her nephew and frowned slightly. Xiao Mei, on the other hand, started to hesitate again. Xiao Mei, let's go to our seats. My seat is in the 3rd row. It's closer to the front. At this moment, a young man dressed in aqua blue said with an embarrassed expression. Xiao Mei hesitated for a moment before nodding her head. She looked at Zhang Yushu and said, No, I'll go with Hai Wen and the rest. Let's go upstairs. Wang Xian continued to speak to Zhang Fengying. Upstairs? Wang Xian's words stunned everyone once again. Upstairs was a private room. According to what they knew, there were private rooms on 2 floors of the auction. Private rooms were only prepared for Insightful Emptiness Realm experts and families with Insightful Emptiness Realm experts. If not, sorry, you wouldn't be able to go up. It was better to stay obediently in the hall. As there were too many families that came this time, the private rooms on the 2nd and 3rd floors were completely insufficient. The standard of those who were qualified to enter was raised to the Insightful Emptiness realm. To be able to enter meant one's true strength. Zhang Yushu and the rest were stunned and quickly followed behind. At the entrance of the private room stood a middle-aged man. He scanned the surroundings with a calm expression. When he saw Wang Xian walking up, his expression didn't change at all. The group of people walked straight up. The young man in aqua blue was stunned once again. Xiao Mei's face was filled with astonishment and a hint of regret. Let's go. Let's go too. My father and his men are in the private room on the 3rd floor. The expression of the young man in aqua blue changed as he spoke to the few people beside him. Then, he walked straight up the stairs. Xiao Mei smiled when she saw him walking upstairs. He knew Hai Wen's background. Admission tickets. However, when they reached the intersection, the middle-aged man who seemed calm said faintly. The young man in the water blue clothes was stunned again. What the hell was the meaning of this? They just walked up without asking anything. Why did I walk up and ask for admission tickets? The youth in aqua blue took out his admission ticket with an embarrassed expression. Don't you have eyes? These are the tickets for the hall. You don't have the right to enter. The middle-aged man glanced at them and said coldly. I. The youth in aqua blue opened his mouth and his face turned red. What the fuck? They directly walked into the auction house without tickets. We want to enter. They walked straight up to the private room. We don't have the right to go up. Then how could they enter the auction house? Why didn't you ask them for tickets? You even said that he had no eyes. You. The young man in aqua blue wanted to flare up on the spot, but when he heard his father's reminder to him today, he forcefully suppressed the anger on his face. This. Zhang Yushu and the others, who were walking on the stairs, heard their conversation and looked down in shock. This. They were actually stopped. Did they just walk up? Hai Wen's background was very terrifying. Why didn't he come up? At this moment, Zhang Yushu and the others were a little dumbfounded. They quickly looked at the young man walking at the front. This Aunt Zhang Yushu's friend was so awesome. Could his face be used as an admission ticket? Brother, can you let one of our friends come up? Zhang Yushu looked at Xiaomei below and said to Wang Xian hesitantly. What? Aren't you afraid that you'll end up on the grassland in the future? Zhang Fengying said to Zhang Yushu coldly. Auntie, What are you talking about? Let's go. Zhang Fengying said in a domineering manner. She looked at her nephew with disdain. Zhang Yushu became timid and followed behind her with an unhappy expression. Downstairs, Xiao Mei, the young man in aqua blue, and the rest saw them going up. Their faces were filled with embarrassment. Here, this room is empty. Wang Xian led them all the way to the 3rd floor. When he saw that there was no one in a private room, he opened the door and said to them. Okay, sure. Zhang Fengying nodded. By the way, are you free tomorrow? Wang Xian looked at Zhang Fengying and suddenly thought of something. He asked her. No, what's the matter? Zhang Fengying looked at him curiously with a smile on her face. There's something I want to ask you. Since I didn't manage to finish my meal last time, I'll treat you tomorrow. Wang Xian said with a smile. All right. Zhang Fengying nodded. But, I'm warning you. If you dare to be late again, don't blame me for being impolite. No. Wang Xian shook his head hurriedly. All of you can sit here first. I still have some matters to attend to. Okay. Zhang Fengying nodded. Zhang Yushu and the rest stared at the empty private room with their mouths agape. This private room is theirs now. Chapter 1054, Sky-High Price Demonic Beast Bloodline. Zhang Yushu and the others were dumbstruck. Today, at the auction held by the Phoenix Immortal, the admission tickets had already been sold for tens of thousands of middle-grade spirit stones. However, when they entered, no one stopped them. When they went up to the third floor, they also directly entered. Moreover, there was no one in the private room, only them. After all, those who were qualified to enter the private room were all profound void tier experts and their strength. Could it be that that young man was a big shot? Or perhaps he was the successor of a powerful family? Thinking of this, Zhang Yushu looked at his aunt. Aunt, was that your boyfriend just now? So powerful, he was actually able to bring us directly to the private room. When did this happen? It's good to have such a little uncle-in-law. Zhang Yushu mumbled, his face full of happiness. Shut up, you. Don't provoke that high one in the future. He's not someone we can afford to provoke. Zhang Fengying's small face was slightly red. She glared at him and said directly. Isn't there a little uncle-in-law? If he can enter the private room, his family also has a terrifying expert at the profound void tier. As Zhang Yushu spoke, his face turned dejected. Sigh, I didn't expect Xiao Mei to be such a person. Zhang Fengying rolled her eyes at him and found a seat to sit down. She ignored him. Let's eat something. The auction is about to start. In the room on the fourth floor, Wang Xian placed the packed dishes in front of Feng Wuan with a smile. I'm not interested. Take a look. Feng Wuan raised her head and said to him. TSK, I still can't compete with Her Majesty the Empress. This is my biggest gain since coming to the Transcendence Continent. For the spiritual stones that will be auctioned tonight, your Fengxian elixir and weapons workshop will exchange all the spiritual stones for elixirs. Wang Xian said directly to Feng Wuan. Alright, I'll get someone to prepare it and send it to you in 2 days. Feng Wuan said. Your Majesty, we can use this opportunity to throw Fengxian out. The old woman at the side said to Feng Wuan. We have to give up. Otherwise, a large portion of our energy will be spent on the Fengxian pill and weapons workshop. Feng Wuan nodded. Yes? What's wrong? Fengxian won't open it in the future. Wang Xian asked Feng Wuan with a surprised expression. Yes, keep what's left in Donghai City and sell the rest. Feng Wuan nodded and did not hide anything. Now, Fengxian has spread throughout the 3 kingdoms. However, the impact of the Life and Death Pill Workshop and the Saint Item Forging Workshop is too great. It will consume a lot of energy. Furthermore, the next development will require a terrifying amount of spirit stones. We have to sell all of Fengxian. Wang Xian nodded his head slightly. Initially, I was planning to set up a pill and weapon workshop when I came to the Transcendence Continent. Since you opened it, I didn't open it. Now, it seems like it's a wise choice. However, you still have to keep some shops. In the future, the pills that I buy alone will be enough to support a lot. Sure. I'll give you a 30% discount when the time comes. Feng Wuan smiled. Wang Xian shook his head and didn't mind. Sure. Welcome to the auction held by the Phoenix Elixir and Weapons Workshop. I know why everyone is here. I won't waste any more words and will start the bidding immediately. Now, let's start with the first item. The first item is also the item that everyone is paying the most attention to. The bloodline of the half-step void interpretation demonic beast. Let's start the bidding immediately. At this moment, an old man's voice came from the hall on the first floor. The old man stood on the auction stage and said to everyone with a smile on his face. The auction began immediately. The first item was the half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline. After the first item was auctioned off, they would be able to compete for the next item even more freely. Otherwise, many aristocratic families wouldn't dare to make a move. They were afraid that there would be pressure when bidding for the half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline. Half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline. This demonic beast bloodline is the wind-winged savage fish bloodline. Many people should know about the wind-winged savage fish. It is the wind-winged savage fish species in the Windbell Forest of the Eastern Sea City. Now, it has been obtained by us, the Phoenix Immortal. I don't need to say much about the value of the half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline. Everyone is clear that the starting bid now is 10 billion middle-grade spirit stones. Each increment must not be less than 1 billion. Now, let the bidding begin. Pang! The hammer landed, and a clear sound echoed in everyone's ears. FUCK, the first one is auctioning the half-step void interpretation demon beast bloodline. Do you have to be so crazy? I didn't expect this to be the bloodline of the wind-winged savage fish. The wind-winged savage fish is a wind attribute demon beast, and its strength is very powerful. Especially in terms of speed, it can't catch up with those of the same level. The bloodline of the wind-winged savage fish demon beast is definitely the most powerful demon beast below the insightful void realm. It seems that the wind-winged savage fish has a magical ability called Wind Howl. It is very powerful. When the first auction item, the bloodline of the wind-winged savage fish demon beast, was brought out, everyone had a heated expression on their faces. The people of East Sea City were very familiar with the wind-winged savage fish. It was a demon beast with a powerful wind attribute. It had once attacked the East Sea City and was killed by the city lord and the commander of the Ocean Cultivator Corps. Among the demon beasts, its strength was relatively strong, especially its speed. It's actually the bloodline of the wind-winged savage fish. Each of the wind-winged savage fish's abilities are more practical. It's one of the best among the same level. In the private room upstairs, City Lord Lei Feihu looked at the bloodline of the wind-winged savage fish below, and his eyes revealed a trace of fervor. A few years ago, the ones who killed the experts of the wind-winged savage fish clan were him and the experts of the City Lord's mansion. He was deeply aware of the strength of the wind-winged savage fish. If it doesn't exceed 35 billion middle-grade spirit stones, we can take it down. City Lord Lei Feihu slightly clenched his fist, and his eyes flickered. The higher-ups of the Eastern Sea City saw City Lord Lei's expression and knew that the City Lord was about to make a move. They looked at each other, their eyes filled with helplessness. They also wanted to obtain such a half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline. But they knew that this bloodline was not something they could compete for. Even the City Lord was not 100% sure that he could compete for it. They knew very well how many experts were participating in the auction. 5 insightful Void Realm experts had personally arrived, and there were also a few clans with insightful Void Realm experts. 10 billion mid-grade spirit stones starting bid. Oh my god, this is 10 billion, I wonder how many will be sold in the end. Oh my god, our clan has prepared more than 10 billion mid-grade spirit stones, it seems like we are going to be finished. This half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline isn't something we can participate in at all. It's most likely a competition between the experts in the private room. If it doesn't exceed 20 billion mid-grade spirit stones, we can compete for it. In the hall, everyone spoke in a low voice as they looked at the bloodline, their eyes burning with incomparable fervor. 20 billion. However, right at this moment, a voice directly came from within the private room. Everyone widened their eyes and felt that their vision was a little blurry. Spirit stones were spinning in front of their eyes one after another. The face of the elder who said that he was prepared to fight for 20 billion turned black. Damn it, the first bid had already reached 20 billion, what was there to fight for? Chapter 1055, had been completely upgraded. 21 billion. 22 billion. 24 billion. Inside the Phoenix Immortal auction house, the entire auction hall was extremely quiet. No one dared to speak. 4,000 to 5,000 people sat quietly on their chairs. They raised their heads and looked up at the private rooms on the second and third floors. Over there, the voices of bids rang out one after another. Each bid caused the hearts of everyone in the hall to tremble uncontrollably. Over 20 billion. Not to mention 20 billion, even 200 million was a huge fortune for many people. Even if the vast majority of their strength was not lower than Transcendent's 6th rank. However, 20 billion was a number that many people would never dare to imagine in their entire lives. Only those top-tier chambers of commerce and those large clans that possess profound void martial experts would be able to fork out 20 billion. Everyone thought to themselves. 30 billion middle-grade spirit stones, is there anyone else who wants to raise the price? In less than 5 minutes, the price had reached 30 billion middle-grade spirit stones, and everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. 31 billion. Right at this moment, a voice that was more familiar to the people of Eastern Sea City sounded. It's City Lord Lei. I didn't expect City Lord Lei to make a move. Oh my god, 31 billion middle-grade spirit stones. City Lord Lei started to compete, causing some people in the hall to start discussing in low voices. Even City Lord Lei started to compete. One could imagine the allure of this half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline. The City Lord of Starmoon Kingdom was a top-tier existence in the entire kingdom. After all, there were only 10 cities in the entire kingdom. 32 billion. 33 billion. 34 billion. However, City Lord Lei's bid didn't cause any ripples to the people in the private room. No one who could sit in the private room was weak. After all, the City Lord was only a City Lord. He couldn't compare to those large business groups and large clans that had accumulated wealth for thousands of years. Very quickly, the price reached 40 billion. Sigh, this time, a few thousand-year-old clans have come. Their foundations are too deep. City Lord Lei clenched his fists with a face full of unwillingness. Even if he was the City Lord, he could not compete with these large clans. After all, their Lei clan rose up because of him. The other high-level officials in the room did not dare to say anything. This kind of auction was not something they could participate in. Oh my god, it's 40 billion already. It's the sound coming from the private room next to us. At this moment, Zhang Yushu and the rest who were sitting in the private room on the 3rd floor widened their eyes and looked at the auction in astonishment. They were actually sitting in a private room of the same level as a group of big shots. This was a little sour. It's 40 billion already, haha. At this moment, Wang Xian, who was on the 4th floor, revealed an excited expression. It was 40 billion already and the price was still rising. With this 40 billion, his strength could be directly raised by 2 levels. He looked down with excitement. Feng Wan, who was behind him, laughed in amusement. 51 billion, 51 billion. Is there anyone else who has a higher price than this? After a few minutes, the price of the auction came to 51 billion. After reaching more than 40 billion, there weren't many people bidding. Only 3 people were competing. When the price reached 47 billion, 1 person stopped bidding, and only 2 people were competing. 51 billion going once, 51 billion going twice. Peng, deal. Congratulations to the customers in room 203, congratulations on obtaining the half-step void interpretation level Wind Wing Savage Fish bloodline. After a stifling competition, the price of the half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline finally stopped at 51 billion, a price that made everyone feel crazy. 51 billion mid-grade spirit stones, a void interpretation expert killing more than 10 void interpretation demonic beasts, couldn't even be sold for such a price. The entire Eastern Sea City's annual tax revenue was only this number. If this 50 billion is given to me, I feel like I can live for 1,000 years. Fuck, this is simply too crazy. Which family bought this? Hiss, I can finally speak. I don't even dare to utter a fart with the voices of those big shots just now. After the deal was done, everyone looked at the seat of box 203 with envy, their faces full of respect. At this moment, the 7 or 8 people in box 203 wiped the cold sweat on their faces, followed by excited expressions. They had succeeded. With their resources and this half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline, they could definitely build a powerful family. For a half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline family, 51 billion was worth it. And now, the person who was the most excited was none other than Wang Xian. A half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline could earn so much money. If you were to take out his divine dragon bloodline, wouldn't the entire world go crazy? Of course, Wang Xian wouldn't sell his divine dragon bloodline unless he wanted to die. The auction continued. After the sale of the half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline, there was another treasure that was worth competing for. That was the half-step void interpretation pet egg. The lifespan of a ferocious beast was similar to that of a human. A half-step void interpretation pet could live for at least 500 years. Having a half-step void interpretation beast as a guardian in the family could at least preserve the family's glory for 500 years. Many items were auctioned off one by one. This was especially so for the weapon set that Wang Xian had personally refined. Many people were fighting over it. The weapon that Feng Xian had prepared was also auctioned off by many people. In the end, when the final item, the half-step void interpretation pet egg, was auctioned off with 8.5 billion middle-grade spirit stones, the entire auction ended. 51 billion, plus all the other items, a total of 54.3 billion middle-grade spirit stones. After the auction ended, Wang Xian began to calculate on the 4th floor. His eyes were burning with passion. You're rich? Feng Wan, who was at the side, asked him with a smile. Yes. Wang Xian nodded with a smile and said directly, how many pills do you have? Give them all to me first. All right, I'll be going back tomorrow morning. There's no need to send me off. I should be back in a month's time. Contact me on the communication stone plate. Feng Wan said to Wang Xian. All right. Wang Xian nodded. The auction had ended. Wang Xian took the pills worth more than 30 billion from Feng Wan and immediately went to his residence. These pills included the pills that the customers used to exchange for spirit stones tonight, as well as the pills that Feng Wan had transferred from other cities in advance. Now that Wang Xian's cultivation base was at Transcendent Level 5, to advance to Transcendent Level 6, he would need elixirs that were worth more than 1 billion middle-grade spirit stones. To advance to Transcendent Level 7, he would need elixirs that were worth more than 10 billion middle-grade spirit stones. Next would be the advancement of the group of strange demons and golden swordfish. The remaining 20 billion would be sufficient to elevate them to the peak level below the insightful emptiness realm. When Wang Xian returned to his residence, he immediately swallowed all the elixirs in his mouth. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.